Welcome to Anything Goes, the best geek and pop culture podcast broadcasting from Long Island, New York. I'm your host, Timothy Rooney. And if you look at the title of the podcast, you know we're doing the Prisoner of Azkaban review. And like every Harry Potter podcast I do, I have two guests with me. Who's with me today?
Nikki Torres or Nikki Muggle.
And Dakota Wiegand, like always.
How you doing today? Can't complain.
Oh, I didn't know you were asking both of us. You were looking.
I look at Dakota and I just shift my eyes to you like, and you?
You didn't even pass me the microphone.
I know, that's why I was.
I don't have anything to say anymore.
This intro is getting off well. So everybody, break out your copy of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban because our review is coming right at you right now. Now, Dakota, before I swing the mic over to you, can you think of and recite the synopsis of this book?
Oh, God, I knew this was coming. I didn't prepare. Okay, winging it.
How did you not prepare? You do it every time.
I know, but I forget. Okay, so Harry Potter's still a wizard. Shocker.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, he's still a wizard. He's at home and with the Dursleys for summer, like always. But now we have a little tidbit that some villain broke out of some prison on Muggle TV. His name is Sirius Black, and he's armed and dangerous, but nothing else is revealed. So Harry's kind of like, whatever. Later, he accidentally, like in a rage, inflates his aunt to like hot balloon status. And then runs out of the Dursleys, threatens to kill, pretty much. He almost got gunpoint, runs out, puts his wand in, like, Uncle Vernon's face, and like, I will fuck you up. Runs out, trips over, hurts himself because he sees this giant dog, gets picked up on the night bus, goes to Diagon Alley. Cornelius Fudge is like, Cornelius Fudge is there going, oh, thank God you're alive. And Harry's like, why? And Cornelius Fudge is like, communist?
This is Dakota's paraphrasing of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay, so long and short out of it, it turns out that Sirius Black is presumably coming after Harry Potter. They go to Hogwarts from there. Harry gets pretty much attacked by Dementors on the train. We're introduced to Professor Lupin, who is probably one of the best characters of the series. Yeah. Hogwarts stuff happens. Harry gets attacked by Dementors again, learns the Patronus Charm a little bit later. Sirius Black actually comes out of hiding, tries to kill someone multiple times. And then we find out about the Marauders in the book. We find out that Lupin is a werewolf. Sirius Black is an animology, I believe.
Not even
animology. We're just going to run it like that. And Snape hates both Lupin and Sirius Black because they were James Potter's best friends, and they just ragged on him the entire time. And turns out Black is his godfather. Peter Pettigrew is actually Scabbers, who is working with Voldemort. He runs away. Sets up plot for the fourth book.
There's also time travel, Quidditch World Cup. Not the World Cup, but they win the House Cup.
House Cup, yeah. It was definitely not your best synopsis.
No, I was just like, I should take the mic away from it. This train wreck is just hilarious.
I think it's because it's your favorite book. I think you had the hardest time synopsising it because you literally gave so much details. That's not a real word. I got a really bad look from Tim on that one.
But unlike the other two, there's a shit ton of stuff going on in this book. There's like more subplots than what we were used to in the first two books.
Well, because this is when we start realizing that these books are going to age with Harry.
And they're going to get dark.
Yeah, pretty freaking quickly.
Oh yeah.
So, since the book series is about Harry Potter, let's look at Harry Potter as a character in this book, where he's come from the first 2 books and where he leads off at the last page. Nikki, your feelings on Harry in this book?
You know what? This book, I kind of started to realize that Harry really gets, like, kind of picked on a lot for a famous person. Like, it's not kind of what I would have expected. Like, even everything that happens with Harry with the Dementors, they're cruel about it. Like, nobody's realizing that he's literally listening his parents get murdered. Like, every time a Dementor comes through and brings up those deep, dark memories for everybody else, it's like, oh, you know, that time that I fell off my wizarding bike. Like, you know, like, these aren't, like, big things. And then for Harry, it's literally... And you know who also... sliding off of Harry just a little bit, who also gets affected really bad is Neville. So, like... It's just, I think Harry's just picked on. Poor Harry's bullied, and I do think, like, he's able to master really advanced magic in this, and I think the movies downplay it, especially later on in Order of the Phoenix when everybody's doing the Patronus charm. But this is magic that an average, 13-year-old should not be doing, and, like, Lupin tells him that. And I think with Lupin, he finally gets... a guardian who's not Hagrid, because, I mean, as much as we love Hagrid, Hagrid's really not the kind of responsible adult that you want to look up to. And
Coswell to you.
Yeah, like, Dumbledore is up there, but you don't really get those interactions with Dumbledore yet. So Lupin, this is the first time that Harry's kind of bonding with, like a father figure, and it just happens to be that this is one of his father's best friends. Mm-hmm. So it just Harry gets really complex in this book, and I like that about Harry.
Which I agree with. Obviously things change, and of course he turns 13 and puberty hits him, and it hits him in the usual ways of, like, he starts to notice Cho Chang for the first time, and he gets very angry very quickly. I mean, like, just like, oh, I hate life kind of everything, but he's not petulant. That's not until later on.
He's not Order of the Phoenix mad. He's like, just normal.
Well, dealing with the Dursleys for 2 months, I'd probably be really
1,000%. And Marge is like next level. Like, she's literally. I thought you couldn't get worse than the Dursleys, and then you meet Aunt Marge, and that's it.
And, like, even, like, times that, like, it seems like Uncle Vernon is just like trying to avoid the situation, and just like he recognizes, like, all right, only shenanigans are only going to ensue if I keep pushing this issue. That's why he keeps trying to deflect Marge from picking on Harry at one point, either out of fear, most likely out of fear. I doubt I don't think he has any emotions towards Harry. But yeah, like you're saying, that Harry gets picked on a lot, and Draco. This is when Draco starts to get really obnoxious with everything. And Draco is like, ooh, the Dementors, ow, my arm, I'm a little bitch, I'm sorry.
For someone, and this is like, Harry's getting affected by something that's really serious, and then Draco literally milks, like, a scrape on his arm. Like, Harry regrew fucking bones, and he was fine, didn't bitch once, but Draco's all like, my arm, I can't cut my, what did he cut, the, like, root or whatever? And poor Ron, who never does anything perfect, had these perfectly cut.
Yeah.
And then Snape made him switch. Oh, I felt so bad for Ron.
Switch with Draco. And then Harry deals with the revelation of a person who he believes betrayed his parents, and is willing to murder him. He has the opportunity, but chooses that he shows that he's his father's son, and realizes this is a bad situation, I can't do this. Then realizes, oh, this guy's my godfather, and he's actually in the right. Does whatever he has in his power to protect his godfather, and that's what continues in the next few books. And Dakota, your feelings on Harry in this book?
You kind of said everything, to be honest with you. I was going to talk about the whole puberty thing and finally noticing some girls and everything. Obviously, he's getting angrier faster. And, this is the first time we're actually seeing Harry not as, like, this happy-go-lucky kid. He's a little bit more feeling, wearing his heart on his sleeves a little bit here, and he's, like, not putting up with as much, like, crap.
Now, do you think it's the first time? Because in Chamber, you see it a little bit when they accuse him of being the heir of Slytherin.
Well, that's a little bit more extreme situation, but the smaller things, like how Malfoy's almost everything Malfoy says is now getting on his nerves when he just kind of like brushed it off the first 2 books. Now it's like, really, I'm going to like stab him in the chest.
Yeah, I think it is, like Tim said, like coming off of spending time with the Dursleys. Like, I think that's what said, like, his year was, and then to have in the back of your head, like, oh my God, like, here's somebody who's literally coming after me. Mm-hmm. I think just like, it's almost, I feel weird saying it about a guy because I feel like this doesn't get said about guys, but I feel like you can't blame all his anger and all this on puberty alone, because like I feel like that's like a thing you would say about girls, like, oh, that puberty's hitting her, that's why she's so moody. But like, no, I honestly think like some of this is really just like any average person would have reacted like that. He literally thought he was going to get kicked out of school. Mm-hmm. He was forced to lie and say that he's in a place for criminally insane people. With the threat of like, oh, well, you can't go and actually have fun with your friends in Hogsmeade if you don't act like you're freaking criminally insane and get like whipped in school. Weeped in school.
Watching
weeping over you.
And what banana? Whip, whip, my banana. Do the stank leg.
It would have been better if you did the dance while you did that.
I have no idea how to do the
dance. Oh, I do, so I was doing it mentally while you were.
Just slowly to see it's descended to doing that. And let's round out the rest of the trio. Your feelings on Ron in this book?
Ron, Ron didn't really.
I kind of feel bad because he hasn't really progressed in the past 2 books.
And the only thing that really you could say is the whole Ron and Hermione aspect. This is the first time that truly, like, they're at odds, and that's because of Crookshanks and Scabbers. And, people go insane over their pets, so I totally see where they're coming from. And, like, from the get-go, Ron didn't like Crookshanks because he literally landed on his head. Mm-hmm. So, but, like, even poor Hermione was like torn up about it, and Ron like was just like, I don't care, and then I think he really did care, and not so there is like a little bit more complexity to Ron, but he really just in this book it's kind of Hermione and Harry's too.
But like it seems like every book from this point on has the 3 being split up momentarily for some reason. This, it's Ron and Hermione due to Crookshanks and Scabbers. And for the most part, Ron is in the right without the hindsight of, like, you should have let Crookshanks eat Peter Pettigrew and stuff like that. But then also there's moments that, like, Ron's just kind of just, like, jabbing her with it, just being, like, after they win the House Cup, he's like, everybody's having a celebratory, and he has to yell, or he has to like make snide remarks towards Hermione about that. And you're like,
that's just like a 13-year-old boy, though. Like that one, I like, because it's like, honestly, he doesn't know how to handle his own feelings of that, so he kind of just, and like, she's already stressed out with all her like coursework, on top of the fact that one of her best friends, someone who she cares deeply about, is not talking to her. And like, yeah, she could have prevented that with reining in Crookshanks, but none of them would have been able to know that Peter Pettigrew, like, they knew something was weird about Scabbers, but they didn't know that. So.
This is also the first book we actually see Ron actually care about something.
Yeah.
Yeah, first 2 books, it's like, okay, he likes Quidditch, that's loosely talked about, but he doesn't really care to anything too much. And this is the first time we actually see him like actually get angry about the condition of Scabbers, and he wants to protect Scabbers and try to take care of him as best as he can. And he's trying his best, and the fact that it's kind of actually like develops his character a lot more than the first 2 books, because we actually get to see how like he does have this very caring side to him, even though he's probably not the most gentlest of people, because he still kind of treats Scabbers a little harshly.
Oh, yeah, I think that a lot of that was regret, because he was like, oh, my stupid rat, stupid rat, and then all of a sudden he gets sick, and he's like, oh my God, like my rat.
When he gets Pigwidgeon at the very end of the book, we do see him progress with Pigwidgeon in the same manner as Scabbers, like, oh my God, this thing is so annoying.
It sounds like he's really annoying, though. Like, literally, like, probably the most annoying owl.
But so adorable. In your palm of your hand.
I mean, I guess if you have to go from Errol to Pig, like, I feel like
they're very polar opposites there.
Yeah, so I think, like, it's just a shock of the system. It's also kind of cool, too, because the first time you see Hermione with how she cares towards magical creatures, because she really, like, that's, like, her thing. Like, she really loves, like, you'll see the house elves, but, like, Crookshanks, literally no one wanted Crookshanks. So Hermione's like, that's the one. Like, she's literally like that, like, person who's like, I'm going to go to the store and accidentally adopted 17 animals on the way there. So.
But, like, it seems, you gotta think, Scabbers was in the family. That Percy had him, and who had him before Percy? Was it Bill?
No, it started with Percy.
Oh, it was just Percy, and then it was just Percy, then Ron. All right, you gotta think. Percy is prefect at that point. He's had Scabbers and stuff like that. Now it's down to him. No problems when Scabbers was in Percy's care. Now
it's on. Oh, I didn't think about it like that. Like, kind of like the pressure's on because. But then again, and like they kept saying, like even the lady at the. What was it called? It's not the animal store, but like it has like a distinct name. Like like Animal Emporium or something.
Is it Owl Emporium?
Was it the Owl Emporium?
Dakota's gonna double check on that one.
But Dakota, fact check.
Yeah. He's gonna break out his Dakota ring and then you find it out.
Dakota ring. I'm getting you one for Christmas.
If you give me a Dakota ring, I would be happy.
It's just your face inside the rubber ring.
Oh my god, I'm sure someone on Etsy can do it.
Yeah.
They can do amazing things on Etsy, so.
We're not famous yet.
Oh, man.
That's our gift. I'm just going to get everybody a Dakota ring so we have it forever and ever.
Earth, wind, fire, Dakota!
We'd be like Planet Potter.
Oh.
You should get Harry Potter t-shirts and Dakota ring t-shirts. It's my face that says Dakota ring.
Or just get it on the back. Like we'll have like a Potter t-shirt and then it'll just say like, oh, Team Podcast with like Dakota space. Dakota plus ring.
Yeah. And so then you gotta think with like, all right, I could be just reading into that it's like Percy has this responsibility. Then like Bill, Fred and George are doing their OWLs, but they're not too worried about it. They do study.
Fred and George don't have to study; they're naturally smart.
Right.
Magical Menagerie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a name that would have stuck out.
Start with an S. Sam, Swam, Swummy. Oh, Samsonite. I was way off. But E. coli.
This is the real reason why you guys wanted to share a mic, so half of this could get cut out. So it's literally just going to sound like one of you saying random tidbits.
Yeah, it just already makes me look crazier. It'll make us look crazier than we already are.
You know what? I don't think that it's possible.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, yes. Complete that thought.
But yeah, no, Fred and George, literally, like, I think that's the biggest difference between Percy and Fred and George. Just like side note, is that Fred and George are just smart. They just don't want to use that natural cleverness for, books and stuff like that. Like, I think that they would actually get along better with Hermione if they were like, hey, we're going to read these books. Because the spells and stuff that they do and the things that you see throughout the books before they even open the joke shop. They're really talented wizards.
Mm-hmm. And our feelings on Hermione in this book, and she does go through a very big change in this book.
I don't know. I mean, out of the three characters, Hermione doesn't change as much. It's just her obsession with learning becomes more of like an extreme addiction to the point where she even has to realize, like, oh my god, I'm going to burn myself out.
Yeah.
But no, out of anyone, I think she stays the course from the first three books. It's besides getting Crookshanks, I think that's.
Yeah, and I mean, she always got upset about things that the boys did, so it's really not out of character. I do. We were talking about it earlier too. Like, Tim had said, like, Hermione's so obsessed with following the rules, and then she goes and she does probably the biggest no-no in the wizarding world, other than I guess raising the dead. But
messing with
time. But the reason she did it is because she felt it was justified. She wanted to learn. And she's smart enough to do it. I mean, honestly, like, she probably could have continued on that path. She was just too young. Like, I think had started in her 5th year, she probably would have been okay. But, like, really, what is it? Like, they're totally right when they're like, Hermione, like, why are you taking Muggle studies? Like, that's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And the moment she walks out of, how do you say it? Divination.
I forgot about divination.
This is why I like reading, because you can read it in your head, and if you butcher the word, it's no big deal. But yeah, so when she walked out of that, it was like literally the best moment, because you're like, that's how you know she was at her breaking point, because she would never disrespect a teacher, and she like nonstop is throwing at Trelawney. Like she like could not care less about that woman. And even the first day of class when Trelawney's like, oh, not everyone, you can't learn this from a book. Like that girl should just got up then, because let's face it, Hermione will not learn anything that's not from a book, other than she learned a little bit in Dumbledore's Army, but she really it has to be where she can read it and then apply that. But yeah, that's my thing on Hermione.
And I also feel like she, other than like Harry, she deals with the most emotional journey throughout this book, like dealing with the pressures of school. And we've all been there where, like, all right, you make a class schedule, like, all right, this should be okay. Sure, there's some of them are upper divisions, but like, all right, I think I can handle that. Then 2 months into the semester, you're just like, this is not good.
Should not have packed, like, it should have put in more film classes, less theory classes, and I'm overwhelmed,
I mean, my first semester when I was at SUNY Oswego, took 5 classes, and it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 class, Tuesday and Thursday, 4 classes in a row. And so by the 4th class, near the end of the semester, I'm just like,
can't feel your brain at that point.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I seriously regret doing this. And then she physically strikes Malfoy at one point.
Yes, Hermione.
And I kind of feel like it's where the movie did it better, because in the book it's a slap, in the movie it's a punch, and
he hits his head off the stone.
And I'm like, that's good right there.
You know, in all fairness, I like how each of them approached it. I think visually, when you're imagining a slap, I think it fits more with the book version of Hermione, and then the punch with the movie version. Because, you know, I had this conversation with somebody at the bar once, and he's like, if a woman punched me, I'd treat it like a man punching me. He's like, but when a woman slaps me, I'm like, oh shit, what did I deserve? You know, why did I do this where a woman just physically just slapped me? And he's like, it's really embarrassing to get slapped by anyone, male or female. So like, I like in the book, but I agree with you, like in the movie, it just makes sense, because I almost feel like Hermione in the movies is stronger. Mm-hmm. But I think that's all Emma Watson. Like, I think
she brings so much presence to that role.
And Emma Watson, just as a person, is like really like they probably couldn't have casted her. Like, I wish like young Emma Watson was just a little bit more experienced, because I think it would have even.
I read about those.
Yeah, because even she says, she's like, I can't even watch them. Yeah. But like, I just think Hermione has always been one of those people. She has a very clear sense of self, which is what I think Ron struggles with, because he's trying to find his place in a hierarchy of Weasleys.
Right.
But Hermione always knew who she was, and so to have Emma Watson, Emma Watson's fucking beast, and that's literally what I would expect Hermione to be if Hermione was, a real person.
Mm-hmm. And it's with that, like, having, and then she's willing to, of course, Dumbledore says that it's okay to do this, bring Harry back in time in order to prevent this. If it wasn't for those circumstances where Hermione was at the end of that book, she probably wouldn't do that whatsoever. She'd be like, well, that's how it goes, and Sirius Black's going to die by the hand of the Dementors. It's wrong, but I feel like Hermione at the beginning of the book would not do that unless she's gone through that emotional journey.
Oh, yeah.
But since we've talked about the established characters right there, let's talk about some of the new characters that are playing there. Let's start with Professor Trelawney.
Do you want to start?
You can start.
Oh.
I have to form a thought right now.
It's not that I hate Professor Trelawney, and we do learn that there's a very good reason why she's there. I feel like Professor Trelawney is one of those teachers where if you were taking that subject and you loved that subject, she'd be great. Because, like, literally, she's just kind of throwing some stuff out there, just so happy. Like, who wouldn't predict that Neville would break the first teacup that he touches? Like, there's part of it that, okay, it could have been true, and then another part where it's just like, come on, it's fucking Neville. Like, and like the whole thing with Lavender's bunny, like, I mean, for her, like, there's little things she does, and I'm like, all right, like, this would be something that I'd be like, that's too weird for it to be a coincidence, but not enough for me to believe in it. But for someone like Lavender Brown, like, yeah, like, this would be right up their alley. This is something, so I can understand why Hermione struggles with that, because this is not an exact science. It's, even McGonagall is like, pff, like, turns her nose up at it. And then you have where, literally, they're in the final, and she's predicting that Harry's going to have this horrific event, and you find out later on that she predicts the whole reason that Harry's the chosen one. She was the predictor. So, I don't hate her, but she is one of those characters I could do without.
Yeah, I mean, the books don't really... I mean, we do learn that she does play a huge role in the entire story, but as a character, it's just like one of those characters, like, this is just, she's just there to bother Harry and just bother literally everyone else. I mean, just reading it, it's just so, the whole uniqueness of that class, it just, one, you have to climb a rope ladder to get up to her class, then it's like this humid, perfumed environment, and you're drinking tea and you're sweating your ass off and going like, what the hell did I get myself into? And then she's all like, I just hit a bong in the back room before this class.
That's literally, like, I definitely thought she was high the whole time.
Like,
and I like that she's more developed than, say, like, Professor Binns, but, like, I still, yeah, it's too much. I think they gave her too much attention.
I think so. I mean, she's crystal gazing into her, like, the bowl, her marijuana bowl that was back there.
Tell me what you see in these marijuana leaves.
It seems
Getting
like
children high. Don't do that.
yeah. There's a reason why she's in the ass end part of the buildings, because nobody wants to deal with her.
Well, they do say, like, they come out lightheaded a lot. So,
yeah,
like,
so they're probably slightly
maybe
stoned.
there was. Yeah, maybe she just couldn't write that because it's a kid's book. But
Yeah.
Adults rereading it would
Yeah,
find.
well, we're obviously reading into it because for the sake of
We also
comedy.
realize that Hagrid's a freaking alcoholic. Like, this
That's
is not
true.
stuff you picked up when you first read the book.
But it seems like at least her first class, and predicting with, like, as you brought up, Neville breaking the tea cup. She seems so certain of herself, and she's leveled emotionally while doing that. So it makes you think, all right, she seems like a legitimate soothsayer. However, when she predicts, like, oh, you have the Grim, it's like, all right, now we really cannot take you seriously.
But in all fairness, he did have a Grim. It just wasn't a Grim. It was Sirius Black.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not wrong, but it's almost like she misreads things that she's accurate about.
Right.
And, like, I think they said her grandmother was literally one of the best seers of all time. So, like, I feel like that's like a Ron situation. You're trying to fill shoes that you can't fill.
Yeah. But it seems like with the introduction of her, that Rowling has already wrote out the prophecy at this point. That's why we give her so much credence in this book. We kind of forget about her, We kind of forget about her in the fourth book, then to bring her back in the fifth book, and then why.
Man.
It definitely seems like Rowling has already planned out the next few storylines by this point.
She had to have some inkling that this was going to happen, because I know she said she didn't have it, like, down, but she in order to put it, like, at least an outline.
Loose idea of where you want this to go.
And I understand where, like, and then she has a snooty attitude towards people who are non-believers and stuff like that, but, like, you call on the carpet of being a soothsayer, you have to be able to take criticism, which she does not do well, whether from students or faculty included. I love that when it's Christmas dinner, it's like 12 people, if that, at a table.
But that's actually like a real superstition, because I don't remember what show I was watching. What was I watching? It's like House of DVF, some like stupid like E show that I watch when I just want to like turn my brain off. And the designer, Diane Van something. But she said, she's like, there are 13 chairs here. She's like, something has to go. Like, she's like, I don't care if we have to uninvite somebody, but it can't be 13 at a table. So it's almost like Trelawney plays on, and Rowling in turn, because she wrote that for Trelawney, plays on existing superstitions. And sometimes when you believe in a superstition enough, like my grandmother always says, don't leave your pocketbook on the floor. And as I'm looking at it, it's on the floor because you will be poor your whole life. And Sally Mae is going to make sure that prophecy comes through. So, I mean, sometimes superstitions, I mean, I've never broke my mom's back from stepping on a crack, but like there are ones out there. Like at my job, they were just telling me the tip jars have to go a certain way. And they're like, do you know which way they go? And I'm like, yeah, they go here and here. And they're like, you know why? And I was like, I have no clue. Like, literally no clue. I just know that they're always there. And it's because the head bartender believes that if they're in the other order, the night will go bad and you won't make money. You won't make, well, I would imagine you'd still make money because you're still bartending, but like not as much as you would say like a typical night. And they're like, you know what? One night he bugged out on somebody because they rearranged it and their tips weren't really that good. And he's like, I told you not to do this. So like superstitions.
Yeah, but also you could argue the fact like if you're putting so much credence into a superstition, you're bringing the forces of the universe on you, like something like that. Laws of attraction kind of a thing. But moving on, the other. Do you have anything else you want to say about Ronnie?
No, I'm good.
Okay, because I feel like I've been hogging the mic. I apologize.
But, yeah, not going to say anything.
That was so awkward.
Nah, we've done no. We'll tell you off the mic what the most awkward touch he's ever done to me.
I'm so scared. Help me, listeners.
All 10 of you, if that.
I don't like when they go, "Hey, we want to show you something." It never ends well. So
that's making it sounded really uncomfortable for us now. Thoughts on Sirius Black?
Dakota, you want to start this one off?
Sirius Black, for the short time that we have him in the series, I love him. He's just a bat. He's like, you don't know anything really that much about him. What you do know about him is kind of, it's true yet not true. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy is, one, he comes across as like this whole badass. He has a flying motorcycle. He went out for a revenge kill on Peter Pettigrew. Just all sorts of other stuff. He's just, in this book, I feel like you just wanted more of him, and the little bit that you got was just enough to get you like, oh my god, I need to learn more about Sirius Black. So I thought he was a really great addition to the story, and also the fact that it kind of gives Harry that little bit of like a edge because like, hey, my godfather is convicted of like murder of like shit ton of muggles. Yeah, what now?
See, that's almost. He does get that attitude, but can you like not picture Draco saying that if it like the roles were reversed? Like Draco would be like, "I'm gonna stick my uncle on you." Like, wait.
Like, what was it? He said he doesn't have Blood Prince. Like, was it Greybeard or who's the guy who's the werewolf?
Yeah, but he's not related to him.
No, but he does threaten. He uses his friendship as a threat against the shop owner.
Yeah.
So he has done something like that.
Yeah, because that's a very Draco-like statement. But you're right; it does give Harry kind of like a swagger. Yeah. Because they even say they're like, just tell the Dursleys that, you know.
Yeah, like when he gets off the train and Uncle Vernon's like, "What are you so happy about?" Well, my year was like this, and I turned out my godfather's a convicted murderer, and if he knows that I'm not happy, he might come a-calling.
Yeah.
And then Uncle Vernon's like, oh, fuck. Great.
That's my whole thing with Sirius Black is, you're right, you don't get enough of him, and he is badass, but in, like, the cool uncle sort of way. Like, the uncle that is just enough older than you, but it's still, like, you, like, look up to them. Because, like, my cousin has that situation where him and his uncle are, like, only, like, I want to say, like, 4 or 5 years apart. Like there's a close gap. And the flying motorcycle, like all this stuff. And the feats that he does, it's like the fact that he broke out of an like unbreakable prison, like
just that determination.
Yeah. And then to find out, okay, like that's another one, like kind of like Fred and George, like you find out the Marauders in turn, like they mastered magic that you literally have to be on a registry for. That's how hard and how restricted it is, and they mastered it, and they were able to keep it a secret.
And they did some other, like, really hardcore magic where it's, like, that's really, like, advanced stuff for, like, these kids. Like, mapping out the entirety of Hogwarts and its grounds, and also putting the magic on the map itself to be able to show itself to the people with the password, and whoever doesn't, insult them.
I love the insults.
Oh,
my God. The insults are so freaking funny. And it's just, like, that's something that, 14, 15-year-old.
Of course, yeah. You can totally see, like, 15, 16-year-old kids, right?
Yeah.
Like,
However, the problem I have with the Marauders map is, how did Fred and George figure out the password?
They probably played the shit. Like,
I mean, like, I understand, like, it's something that Filch, like, had problems with and, like, obviously confiscated, so it's got to be of something of interest. However, I'd get really maybe it's because maybe I just have low patience for some things, or maybe I would have given up earlier, because I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. That would not be a phrase that would come out of my mouth often.
But it would also come out of Fred and George's.
That's true.
Because they be bantering like they do, and they just keep going, and like someone's like says something and throws it out there. I mean, I'm sure it, like you said, you didn't have the patience for it, but for them to steal it, they're gonna have the patience for it.
And they probably, we've seen it throughout the books that Fred and George, like, whenever there's like something that they are interested in, like the circle around the Goblet of Fire, their all their candies that they produce and everything else that they produce, they're like into it, like, oh my god, we need to figure this out.
Yeah, they live, breathe, whatever their
probably
ideas.
Like died laughing reading these insults coming off the paper at first, and like, we gotta figure out what the hell this thing is.
And you know what? They may have axed too. It's kind of like Tom Riddle's diary. Like they may have axed to figure it out, because after these insults, and they're probably going right back. Well, listen here, Monsieur Mooney. Like they're probably just throwing it back.
Insults.
And it's like they. However, it is charmed because Tom Riddle didn't have to talk to everyone who wrote in that journal. He literally could have pretended like Tom Riddle's soul or whatever, but could have pretended he was a regular journal and just let it go. But he chose Ginny because he realized, here's, a young girl, I can take advantage of this. Nobody's going to suspect a young girl if I'm back at Hogwarts, let's make shit happen. So with the map, like, I'm sure in some way, I mean, I'd like to believe they just said it because it actually seems like something they would say. Like, it just throws it up. But at the same time, they probably were going back and forth with the Marauders, and the Marauders were like, here's how you do it.
Yeah. But my feelings on Sirius Black is that he's a person, well, actually before that, with like how the Marauders mastering those kinds of magic and making the map itself. Do you think they would be the kind of people who would like paint a pentagram on something, seeing if they could conjure a really dark spirit or something like that? Do you think they would
like
do
a Ouija
really
board?
Yeah, kind of thing. Do you think those would be the kind of people who would do that?
No.
No, I don't. Snape would.
Yeah.
Yeah, Snape would mess with pentagrams and stuff, but I think like Ouija boards and stuff like that for just the Wizarding World and stuff, and other like so-called what we think is like hardcore dark shit for this world of the Harry Potter universe. I feel like it's just like muggles.
Yeah.
I mean, I meant the equivalent of it, not the actual.
My whole thing is, I think even though they're mischievous, and even though I think they have that line, and that's the whole reason that James kind of pulls back on. I think also the reason that Sirius was so gung-ho into tricking Snape, not just because they hated him, but I think Sirius had a little bit more of a predisposition for the dark arts. I mean, he's coming from literally one of the darkest wizarding families, and he's rebellious, so he's going to have a little bit of a predisposition for it. And then I think his friends were the conscious, and obviously Lupin within that whole within the whole trick on Snape, Lupin couldn't have been a part of it because Lupin wasn't in his own mind. Like, he's literally just kind of roaming around in his werewolf self. So I think they have that line. And you know what? Peter Pettigrew, even if he wanted to, he is not the kind of wizard that can do it. I picture young Peter Pettigrew as like Colin Creevey. Like, literally, like, that annoying, like, let me follow James and all of them around. And they kind of took pity because, like, Harry still responds to Colin, even though he's frustrated with him. He still, like, appreciates Colin as a person. And I think that's what they did with Peter Pettigrew. So it's almost that much sadder that Peter Pettigrew is the one that sold them down the river, because they literally took pity. Like, they didn't have to help him transform. They didn't have to. They could have let it go really, really, really bad and just be like, yeah, Peter was just trying to do some magic and we told him not to do it. But I do think they have that good that you see in Harry, that you see in Ron, you see in Hermione, that, yeah, they'll get into trouble, but they're not going to go as far as, because, it's in the Wizarding World, there's a much clearer picture of good magic, dark arts. Like there's and you know Snape. You're absolutely right. Snape is the one because I mean you look at that oh my god, my fucking
Sectaserum.
Thank you. Damn, that's closer than what I would have got, so I'll go with it. But yeah, you look at that spell, and even he knew that was too much. But you look at that spell, and a dark mind comes up with something like that. You know, it's one thing to hang somebody up and like flag them, but like it's a totally another story to cut someone in half. And
my feelings with Sirius Black is that he doesn't do himself favors. He is very impulsive, like breaking into the school twice, once attacking the painting of the fat lady, once she wouldn't let him in. The other time is bringing a knife in to kill Scabbers and just scaring the shit out of Ron.
Well, he wasn't planning on scaring the shit out of Ron.
No. It was just like he didn't know where he was. And I could just imagine just like waking up and just seeing a madman with a knife over your bed. You'd freak out when something like that happens. But means well, not like in a oafish kind of way like Hagrid or something like that, but he means well when he believes he's doing the right thing. And when Harry's like, no, we have to keep him alive or we have to turn Pettigrew in, he respects his wishes because he respects Harry just like how he respected his father because he sees so much in him physically, with the exception of his eyes. It looks like his mother's eyes. Boom. We should just put like money in a jar right there for how many times that's so said.
They say it so many times, and
from
like,
this point on,
it's like I really get it because it is one of those things you would probably hear a lot, especially if your parents were murdered in a gruesome way. But like you gotta imagine, like the kid had his parents murdered in a gruesome way. You really think you want to bring that up every time you see him, even if you don't really know him that well? Like I would almost kind of forgive it from like Sirius, from Remus, but I would not forgive it from like everybody else that does it.
You're gonna maybe laugh at this. Harry has his mother's eyes, and I'm thinking of Top Shots. Like I have my father's eyes, and he opens up like a glasses case, and there's 2 eyeballs in there.
I like that you both are like chuckling in this same exact manner. Like both of their shoulders are raising, and like their body shaking while they're like chuckling. It's hysterical.
Yeah, we're gay like that sometimes.
You're simpatico.
Not a new character, but a new position while at Hogwarts. Hagrid becoming a teacher. Feelings on that is Hagrid being a teacher.
Perfect teaching position for Hagrid. They say it in the book. I mean, he prescribes. I was gonna say he requires a biting book for 13-year-olds.
Monster Book of Monsters.
A 13-year-old with a biting book, and he doesn't think anything of it. And it's one of those things, it's like if anybody had like been like, hey, Hagrid, let me see your teaching plans for the year, all of that could have been avoided. Like, Hagrid, this is a great idea, but maybe you should start with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, like everybody else. Yep. And it's like, save the hippogriffs for like the end of the semester. But the cool/sad thing is those lessons would have been freaking awesome had it not been for Draco, who ruins everything. Because Buckbeak, like, he clearly says, like, that's like classic example of that asshole in school. Like, the teacher would just be like, okay, the test is going to be Tuesday and you're going to need a pencil. And then like 5 seconds later, what day is the test? What do we need? And you're like, were you not right here? And it's not like Draco was texting. He was literally just gossiping with his 2 best friends because he's like a girl like that. And so he got himself hurt when they said, don't insult hippogriffs. They're really freaking proud. And so what does he do? He does exactly what he's told not to.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Hagrid as a teacher, like, perfect role. And I have anyone to figure out how to get the book open. I would expect Hermione to, but never comes out.
No, because Hermione's not really good with practical.
This is true.
She would have to, like, if there was, like, a wizarding internet, she'd have to be like, how to open, and then she'd read how to do it, and she'd be like, gosh, why didn't I think of that, and do it. But,
yeah, good point. But once Hagrid falls apart and it's all flobberworms and stuff, that's where I started like, okay, yes, I know he's falling apart and he's all depressed and stuff like that. But in the middle of everything, they kind of throw it in there where they actually said there was one good lesson, like in the middle of winter, where they're feeding a fire because all the salamanders are like right into the flames.
Yeah, the fire
like,
newts.
Yeah, and like, okay, flobberworms, salamanders, And then it goes back to Flabberworms. It's like, dude, you just had like a moment of actual like clarity here. Like, go with it.
And he gets better. I mean, he does get better throughout the series.
I mean, but it kind of follows the same format where he's like starts off really good, then gets his confidence knocked back down to the ground, and he's back to doing like stupid beasts that are boring.
That's true.
I mean, especially in the 5th book.
Well, the 5th book,
That's a whole different thing, but yeah.
Fucking Umbridge.
And I understand why you wanted to start out with a bang with hippogriffs and stuff like that. I do find it's funny that Draco initially bows and does exactly what he's told to get close to Buckbeak. And it's not until he's close to Buckbeak when he realizes, he lets his arrogance get the best of him. Up until that point, though, once he actually respected the creature for a moment. But Draco being Draco, he allowed you're just a dumb animal, and bam, he gets scraped by this animal. And in the book, Hagrid does not freak out taking him back to the school.
He kind of does.
Yeah, but he's like, all right, everybody, follow me, and he runs him back. Like in the movie, they played up like,
No, in the book, he shouts like, yeah,
he pushes back Buffy. He doesn't freak out about the fact that he's hurt. He's not like. He doesn't freeze up.
No, he just grabs him and runs, leaving everyone else behind.
Which is actually kind of like the worst way to react, because you literally now you have a riled up hippogriff. You don't know how the other hippogriffs are going to respond to that, because they're super proud creatures. So you would imagine they kind of look out for one another, which is what I would like, almost like a lion's. What is that called? Like a lion's den? Is that Pride? Thank you.
Pride of lions.
So, you would think that they would kind of react the same way, and you have all of these kids. But in all fairness, I don't actually think all of the kids were in the corral.
I think they were like one.
They were
per one.
One per one. So there were still some, and some that Neville, who just didn't belong going anywhere near a hippogriff. Yeah, and I kind of, because I talk to my dog like he's an asshole, because he is an asshole. And that's literally how I talk to him. I'm like, get the fuck back, Teddy. This is a little too much. And he digs it, but he's also not a hippogriff, where you should probably not talk to them like that, because they tell you not to do that. So, people baby talk dogs. I don't do that. I'm literally really mean to mine, and he's all about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it's
But he disproves the hippogriff theory.
Well, I mean, I don't see it as I think his scooping up Malfoy and bringing it to the hospital wing, I think, is a little bit better than freezing him, not knowing what to do, and then eventually you have to be told to bring him to the hospital wing. I think that's better than just the indecision in that moment.
Yeah. React rather than just
freeze up. But there's shitty situations, shitty ways of dealing with how that happened. And I understand he goes through that trials and tribulations of having to defend Buckbeak before the school governors, where Draco Malfoy, Godfather style, with marionette strings controlling everybody. And then the executioner, I forget his name, McNair, with such a hate boner to kill. No wonder he's a Death Eater. Spoilers. Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't. Oh, never mind. I answered my own question. I was going to say, I don't know how they never noticed his dark mark, but I realized it only shows up when Voldemort
is in power.
Yeah.
Actually, if just thinking about how they displayed McNair in the movie, just the dark cloak, and he's sharpening his axe, he has this evil grin on his face. It's McNair in the.
You seem more sophisticated than that.
More sophisticated, I always thought McNair, if you know what I'm talking about, in the movie, the Disney 90s movie of the Three Musketeers, McNair was the executioner in that movie with the mustache and the black goatee, and he's just very solemn and just dark.
Oh, I got
eye patch, right?
No.
Okay.
Similar looking, but no.
I got sociopath vibe from it. That's what I got. So I pictured literally an average wizard who literally is just missing the feeling.
A few screws.
Yeah, so. But I kind of liked how they did it in the movie, because I think it just went along with the overall motif.
Yeah.
It's also the kids perception of what he is.
Oh yeah.
And of course
It's
they
super scary to like.
yeah, with a gigantic axe the size of him and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think he really needed that big of an axe, but who do
I mean,
know? I don't execute.
Buckbeak's really a large creature.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, I feel like you can't bring like your little dainty axe.
No,
You
but
gotta-
yeah, but also he looks like he should be on the cover of a metal album or
Here's
something like that.
Johnny, and like that
Yeah.
axe won't work. Like
No, that would take a few slams, then he'd be nearly headless Buckbeak.
Oh my god, that would be so sad. But nearly headless Hick could Hick.
A nearly headless Hick out there. Nick, oh, wow, I'm making fun of you.
Well, nearly headless Nick could have rode nearly headless Buckbeak in the Headless Horseman.
I would just hope like if they were cut in opposite directions, so like his head can go one way and Buckbeak's head can go the other way. As they
So they can get like a good full perspective.
exactly.
Of everything. We had a really good idea there.
Yeah,
JK really missed out.
Yep, totally. But since we're talking about teachers, let's keep it with. I kind of skipped over him. I apologize. The new teacher of the Defense Against the Dark Arts, Remus Lupin.
See, I didn't think you skipped over him. I thought you wanted to give him more attention. So that's why I thought you like waited and you got those two out of the way. Because he's like literally one of the best characters in the whole series. He's just so put together, so confident, knows what he's actually doing, which is so different than our last Defense Against the Dark Arts
I guess
teacher.
both of them. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, because Quirrell taught theory, so it's not so much that.
Yeah, we really don't know how Quirrell was as a teacher because they never said that. Rowling never described
didn't
them
go
in a
into
Defense
it.
Against Dark Arts thing.
Yeah, so it's more like you really just have to compare Remus to Gildery and
Night and day.
literally polar. Like, here's someone who's actually qualified, and the fact that he has to hide like who he is probably like one of the most qualities that I admire about him, because that's got to be the most, like, to have that on your shoulders that at any moment, well, not any moment, I mean, he has a schedule, but like he could literally turn into like a psycho killer and kill everyone in his near sight. Like, and he's not the kind of werewolf like we will see later who's just like, haha, I'm a werewolf, I'll turn everyone, I'll eat everything, I don't care. He literally cares, and it bothers him. He has this conscience, and
I mean, remember when the fifth book, jumping ahead, Arthur Weasley's in St. Mungo's, and the room that he's sharing with is some guy that's presumably bitten by a werewolf, and Lupin comes to visit Arthur Weasley, but when he's not talking to him, he goes over to talk to the other guy, because it's like, hey,
It's
I
like, I
know
get what you're
exactly
going
what
through,
you're going
yeah.
through. Yeah.
just
But, yeah.
oh my god,
Sorry
just,
to jump in.
no, it's fine. It's just totally such a legit character, and it just seems like a really good teacher. Like he's like, Harry's like, I need your help, and I don't even think it's just because it's the son of like his old friend. Like I think it literally is.
That's what he wants to do. He wants to
Yeah.
help them. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Lupin is by far my favorite character in this entire series. I would have to rate him my top character. I mean, the way they introduce him, I just love how he's just like, he's on the train. Like, the only adult they ever saw on the train was the trolley witch, and here's a guy who looks homeless on the train, passed out. And we're like, okay, this is weird. And then he has this really awesome, well, we don't see it in the book, but because Harry's blacked out, but he has this really awesome moment. And then just the back and forth, like on the train, and then everything that goes through the year, and then all the other books. He's just such a classy character, and I absolutely love him, except for one scene in the seventh book. And out of the entire series, there's one moment where I just feel Rowling got the character wrong.
With Tonks?
When he runs away. That's what I don't get, because
I don't know. I'll have to reread it, and I'll get back to
when
you.
he runs away, he wants to go with Harry, Ron, and Hermione on their search for the whatever they're fucking called. Horcruxes. Thank you. And he's just, because Tonks is preggers, I don't want to be around that. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is not the Lupin that we started reading.
Yeah, I mean, I always took it more so that he considers Harry like a son, and so here he's going on this journey that, like, it's just not going to end well. So I think, like, even though he was, like, yeah, like, people freak out when pregnancy and stuff, but, like, I always just took it more as like a projective thing, but like I said, I'll
Yeah,
give
the
me
way
more
I read
about
it, it was just that was like one of my he wasn't in character at that moment, and I guess that's the whole point. But at the same time, that was like his weakest moment as a character. But going back to the third book, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But also, he didn't want to continue the relationship with Tonks in the sixth book before she got knocked up.
That was different. That was more protecting her than.
Yeah, but also it seems like he had the foresight of an inevitability of having werewolf children, and he can't have them. He doesn't want to inflict other people on this world with the sickness that he has.
Well, yeah,
Well, which eventually does, yeah. I mean,
but still, he was trying to protect Tonks from everything that's associated with a werewolf. But as soon as he's trying to, in case you didn't hear me, he's trying to protect Tonks with everything associated with a werewolf, and then all of a sudden he has now a child on the way. Wouldn't you think that he would try to protect that child with everything that he does? With everything that's suited up, he's trying to protect Harry, Ron, and Hermione. He's trying to protect Tonks. He's trying to protect the Order of the Phoenix. Now he has a kid on the way. He's not sure if it's going to be a werewolf or it's going to be like Tonks, where she can transform and everything like that. And then he just bails.
I think he's just human, and that's a lot. That's a lot on your plate for any given person who doesn't have a werewolf problem.
I mean, it's like somebody who has like AIDS or something like that, or some kind of disease that could be spread that way, as well as leading a resistance army against a dark evil force. And my feelings on Lupin in this book, and pretty much overall, is that he is one of the best, like you said, best written characters in the entire series, and that even if like Neville came up saying, "Professor, I need help with this kind of magic, can you help me?" He would definitely make the time for him. And that he's, I don't want to say stern, but he pushes them to face the boggart that they will envision with themselves. He's not like, face it or else, but he's like, trust me, face it, and you deal with it as like the first lessons and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I have the confidence in you.
Yeah.
And then, like the what's the creature that's in the tube that's in his office that they eventually deal with? Grindylows. Like, that's a dangerous creature. You've brought that up on an earlier podcast, what Grindylows are, or what it's based on. It's like a water demon or something. They're not the same?
I don't know. They do both. He does Grindylows and
they're both aquatic creatures, but Kappas and Grindylows are two different things.
Oh, my apologies.
Both are dangerous in the world of Harry
and their
Potter.
final, which is like
dealing with them.
Yeah,
the coolest. I think that's so cool, and like
it's the most practical.
I feel so bad for Hermione. That was so cute. That's such a Hermione like.
Professor McGonagall I can see her crawling out of the trunk after her or something like that. It's terrifying.
Man, they really missed a moment there in the movie because that
and
could
with
be
Lupin's reaction, like what, like
Yeah,
kind of
it
like,
could've
oh my
been
god,
anything.
what did you see? I'm like, oh my god, what did you see? I got it. It's like, oh, Hermione.
I wish it was an actual exam, like a human-sized exam with a big F on it, just coming after her or something like that.
Oh, like running.
Yeah.
No, I actually almost kind of think it's better that it was. I mean, as funny as that would have been.
Yeah.
Because McGonagall is literally, I think, in Hermione's eyes, the like top mentor. Like that's who she wants to be. That's her role model. Like it's like, you know, like little girls like look up to like Amelia Earhart, and then you have like Hermione looks up to Professor McGonagall. You know, here's somebody who's brilliant, who's teaching, who's just a classy lady in general. So I think that's who Hermione models herself. And they're obviously quite close because, you know, they get to break wizarding laws together. So
McGonagall cleared it. They explained that. She
Yeah.
cleared it, but yeah.
But one of the best parts about Lupin, he always seems to be in control of his emotions. He doesn't let them usually get the best of him. That's why when he does turn in, yeah,
The fourth book when Sirius falls through, fifth book where Sirius falls through the arc.
yeah,
He's speaking. He's holding back all of his emotions when telling Harry he's not coming back.
yeah.
It's like the feels.
I
Yeah.
mean, like the moment where like Snape catches Harry from the Marauders and he like throws the like dust into the fireplace, like, Remus, get back here, and then he just comes through.
And that's the first time you see them. I mean, it's not the first time we use flu powder, but that's the first time you realize that they can communicate that.
Yes,
way, right?
but they don't. Rowling doesn't linger on that. That's why when we see, I think I think it's Fudge talking to Arthur in the next book, and that's when he's like, "Why is the Prime Minister's head in the
Fireplace.
And
even that's how he talks to Sirius.
Yeah, that's like but I like the fact that it was kind of like it's not a setup, but it's just like one of those like details you just kind of like write it off like, oh, this is just a magical thing.
I think had you not read the second book and you just came into that, I think it would be like a little dissettling.
Mm-hmm.
But because you know that people can literally transport themselves through it. What does it matter if they can talk to it?
And I love the moment when they're in the Shrieking Shack when Remus is trying to get control out of everybody, and everybody's freaking out. He's got a potential murderer on one side, a potential murderer pretending to be a rat on one side, 3 13-year-olds all freaking out, one with a broken leg, and he's just trying to chill everybody the fuck down before something goes awry. That's a lot to handle at that moment. He does his best at that. And I feel really bad, but it's the most logical sense that he steps down as a teacher.
It's one of those things, it is the most logical, but it's also the stupidest because when do they do anything logical at Hogwarts? Like, literally, and you're going to have parents like Lucius, but like at the same time, you're going to have parents who are going to be like, holy shit, my kids actually learned something this year. So it's kind of like, you really think like Seamus Finnegan's parents are going to write like...
Well, if they read the Daily Prophet, they probably would.
Werewolf spotted in Hogsmeade and on Hogwarts ground.
That's, maybe you're right.
And as we later find out in the next book, that how the Daily Prophet almost like hypnotizes some of its readers with
my God.
With the sensationalist headlines that they write.
Quibbler.
The Quibbler is where it's at, man. It may be like the National Enquirer, but it seems like it's more legit sometimes.
Fucking Rita Skeeter, too. I hate that hoe. Can't wait to talk about her next book.
That's going to be like an hour long on her. Just as
we might have to break that up. Part 2 of
God.
5 hours later, we're still doing a podcast.
Would you hurry it up? I'm out of title cards. Any last thoughts on Lupin?
No, not really. Just my favorite character ever in Harry Potter.
Yeah, no, Lupin's developed just really, really, really well. Obviously, up until your qualm, but
we'll eventually get.
Eventually we will discuss that.
I know this will probably be brought up in the commentary and it'll probably be brushed away because the movie's moving along. You do not like David Thewlis' casting as Remus Lupin.
I really like him.
So do I. Personally, I just see Jim Dale. When I read Harry Potter, and obviously I grew up with the audiobooks, I just figure Jim Dale is not actually changing his voice up for Lupin. It's actually his voice being Lupin, right. And Jim Dale's this lanky dude and everything like that, and that's how I just think, like, that's how Lupin should be. I mean, I'm gonna give it. I only saw the third movie once, and I was so disappointed by it. So maybe that's skewing it, but I still think that
I think it's hard too when it's your favorite character because you're gonna have
your own perception of it.
The odds are stacked against them.
Whoever plays it. Yeah, but no. I mean, I'll give him a shot when we do the commentary again.
And I love his casting, and I think David Thewlis is one of the best actors of his generation, and that's my favorite moment in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie is that 3 of Britain's best actors are sharing a scene together with David Thewlis as Lupin, Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, and Alan Rickman as Snape. And I wish it was like the book where the book goes on for 10 pages of them arguing.
Yeah, they just kind of trim it.
Yeah, that's there's 3 whole chapters dedicated to the Shrieking Shack, and yet they cut it down to an 8-minute scene in the movie.
Yeah.
So, but that's how it goes. But since we brought up Alan Rickman and Snape and stuff like that, Snape gets a little more character building stuff in this book. Your feelings on Snape in this book?
You didn't know Gary Oldman was Sirius Black?
I don't know half this shit about Gary Oldman. I'm learning this after.
Gary Oldman never looks like Gary Oldman, so I'll give it to you. But
I know who I am. I'm a dude playing another dude disguised as another dude.
Yeah, Gary. Well, that's not. Now I'm talking about Gary Oldman instead of Snape. Back to the topic, but
Sorry.
no, it's okay. The whole thing with Snape in this, everything that he did in this book is really Snape-like. Like he was like trying to be really slippery about outing Remus, while still being super outright. Like he basically spelt out, and the only person who got it was Hermione. But that's got to be hard. That's got to be hard to see somebody who you literally had such a bad taste in your mouth from your childhood. Even though, you know, back and forth, you really can't. Like, you don't get enough backstory on them to really get a full opinion. But it's kind of like a Draco and Harry. Like, I'm just assuming that I'm on Team Potter. But, like, I might have sided with Snape. But it's just got to be hard to see your childhood bully. And you literally, even though Lupin was really kind of the most innocent, in my opinion, from what we do know, Lupin was really just kind of in the friends group, but every day. And now, not only are you seeing him every day, but you're required to make him this super hard potion, which, I mean, you're the potion master, so I'm sure it's not actually really hard for you, but still, like, he depends on you, and at any moment you can kind of kill him. Like, that's kind of...
Yeah.
Especially somebody who has, you know, a potential... I'm not even going to try. I'm going to butcher that word, but...
Pretentious?
No, like...
Prejudice?
I don't want to say predisposition again, because I use that word again, but for dark arts. Like, here's somebody who, like, you know, has been in that world. Like, he really could have killed them.
Yeah, and that's why... And Harry raises an eyebrow like, Professor, you going to really drink that? Oh, yeah, bottoms up. Glug, 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 glug.
Yeah.
And even though, like, it's... In... Do you think he only does it because of Dumbledore's orders?
Yeah, I don't think he would. Why would he have offered, like, hey, yeah, I'll make the potion that'll save the day? No, like, I feel like he had to have done it.
Yeah, no. Wait. So Snape making the potion for? Sorry, I'm backtracking here. Sorry, I was not. No, Snape and overall, I think it definitely helped add to a little bit more why Snape hates Harry. Though it's for once, Harry notices maybe Snape doesn't absolutely hate me, because the way he looks at Lupin is just pure disgust, and like worse than whatever he looks at Harry. So it's like, oh god, what the hell happened here? And then totally Dumbledore was just like, Snape, make a potion for Remus. Yeah, give me a good boy. Do I have to? Yes. Now pay attention. Do it. Do it now.
Do you want that vacation? Yes, but there you go.
That's funny.
Or just give him an extra pay raise or something like that to deal with that.
Probably just kind of guilted him. Probably just like, remember.
What would Lily do?
You're supposed to be on the good side now, Snape.
I'm not going out there. The show must go on. Damn you. Damn you in that phrase.
Sorry, he has like a little. Snape has a little bracelet. It's like, what would Lily do? Like,
it's an ankle bracelet. It's not a wrist bracelet. That's what it is.
Sensual leg.
It's on his sensual leg.
That's the real reason he was so upset he got cut by the three-legged dog.
He's trying to tell Harry how much he really cares about it by showing the lily anklet he's got going
He
on.
has like a little lily tattoo.
Oh, he definitely has a lily tattoo somewhere. Do not know where.
he has a tramp stamp of a doe.
I'm literally the mental picture of Snape with a tramp stamp. Like, he would have had to literally like flip up his cloak above his head for the artist to like get, unless they do it different in the wizarding world, because you don't really see anybody with tattoos.
No. Not really.
No one was ever
Other than the Dark Mark.
Yeah, the Dark Mark. Oh, kind of curious if JK is like against tattoos, because that's interesting that the only people that use tattoos are the worst people in the Harry Potter universe.
But also, I think this may be in addition to the movie, but like Gary Oldman, like Sirius Black has tattoos on. But I wonder if that's just...
That was creative liberty, because they're never...
prison characters. Like,
I mean, he looked awesome with those tattoos. Like, that was super badass, but...
But I was kind of like wondering, like, what is it Gary Oldman look like when he goes home? He takes everything off.
Yeah, like, what does Gary actually look like? That's the real question. Because even when you look up Gary, like you literally don't know which one's Gary.
and it's like you like that, or like Drexel from True Romance, or what's his name from The Professional, or James Gordon in the Dark Knight movies.
Literally changes all
Total
the time.
chameleon.
He is a real life Tonks.
Yes, and is I don't think he has an Oscar yet, does he?
I don't think so.
I think he was nominated for.
I'm
I think he was
saying-
nominated for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yes.
Holy shit! I was able to do that in one
I know.
go.
That was always the worst when I had to work for that. And, like, I was like, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, it's sold out. But I had to say it, like, really quick. And people were like, what? And I'm, like, screaming to, like,
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy
sold out
sold
lobby,
out.
yeah.
You just gotta do it in sing song.
Between Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Inglourious Bastards were the two of my least favorite to have to yell that they were sold out. Especially with my list, like that. No.
Yeah, but I understand when you're saying you have to say Inglourious Basterds all the time, because that's my least favorite Tarantino movie. So, and I have a lot of problems with that.
Speaking of Tarantino, it's kind of funny that that he just happened to be brought up when you said like how there's like all 3 chapters of that like dedicated to the Shrieking Shack. Oh my god, I can't
They're
talk
shrieking
today.
sack. Ew. He has that tattoo as well somewhere on
Yeah,
his body.
somewhere. Like when you said that there really should have been more, I pictured Tarantino having done that scene. And can you imagine how in depth it would have been if it was? It literally kind of would have been like The Hateful Eight, where this is just talking and talking and talking.
Yeah.
So Gary Oldman was only nominated once for an Academy Award. He has 24 wins of 41 nominations overall.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was he nominated for?
The best performer, best leading actor, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
2 points for me.
I could not read it. I could not watch it. Just for the record, I could not get through it. I couldn't.
It's a very. I heard it's a tough sit.
Like literally, and it's like I want to, but every time I turn it on, next thing I know, I like wake up and like the On Demand logo was like, not like I give up.
Air Force One?
Yeah, he's the terrorist.
God,
Yeah.
why am I learning this now?
I'm telling you,
It's Revelation Theater for Dakota right now.
Literally,
He opened up his Dakota ring.
I was gonna like whisper it to you, but it's funny that you were on the same thought path.
Clarence, or whatever that name.
Clarence, huh?
The
Yeah.
Epiphany guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that called? Clarence.
Oh yeah. that's how you feeling right now. Oh my god. I think I found a transformer. Gary opened the transformer, guys. Sorry.
Oh God. What were we talking about?
we're going on about Snape and stuff like that.
Oh,
But let's get into some of the biggest parts of this book, the Quidditch matches.
Okay, so this is actually the first Quidditch match has more depth than the second one, in my opinion, because the first one kind of shows that how really sensitive Harry is to the Dementors, and also shows how the disgust of Dumbledore towards them. Because as soon as they stormed the field and Harry was plummeting, Dumbledore just had a total freak out.
Angry Dumbledore.
Patronus the shit out of all of them, caught Harry mid-fall and just fucking, like, marched him up to, like, the tower because he's like, okay, this guy's fucked up.
I wish I could see it, just like him catching him with like magic from his hand while other hand using the Patronus charm and his wand, just like, and not looking at Harry, just like,
Yeah.
boom, just behind his head.
And you know the whole time that Dumbledore's really against them, and for a fucking really good reason. Like,
They're
this is
terrible creatures.
a school full of fucking kids. Let's put the things that we guard our prison with and not understand why the headmaster's having a problem. Like, can you imagine, like, if we literally had prison guards and prison rules in, like, elementary schools in America, like, what kind of uproar that would cause? But meanwhile, like, they're like, I don't understand why Dumbledore is not too happy about this. So, yeah, when Angry Dumbledore comes out, that's when I picture, like, you know, like Michael Gambon when he, like, rips Harry, like, did you put your name in? That's what I picture every time I read it now. And
Just him, like, fuming.
And poor Oliver Wood, because this is his last year, and for them to start the season off with this.
The description of when Harry wakes up and, like, his entire team but Wood is there, and Fred's like, he's still in the shower.
Drowning
I think he's
himself.
trying to drown himself. Just the image of Wood just, like...
In all fairness, they should have redone that match. Like, I don't know even I don't even think they go through it in Quidditch throughout the ages, but like that's an outside force coming in. That's not like a part of the game.
They mentioned that Cedric Diggory caught the snitch as soon as Harry
and
fell
he was
off the
trying
broom.
to like,
and he was like, no. But it's like
they let it go.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like my biggest qualm with the whole thing, because I can understand like, all right, like your keeper gets knocked off the broom and like that's a different story. But you have an outside source. Like, these are external. Oh my god, why can't I talk to extenuating circumstances?
Extenuating circumstances right there.
That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, perfect. Thank you for reading my mind. But yeah, like that's literally Dementors ruin the match, and much different than the second one where fake Dementors ruin the match. Like that's students interfering, and then here's fucking Dementors ruining the match.
You could argue that just because Harry has is the only known player with an extreme reaction to Dementors, that they can't really make an exception to that. But
so I just think it should have been a
no,
rematch.
I agree with you. But I mean, the match also serves a point of how drawn to like this happy energy that the Dementors are, and also see like how
it's a feast for them.
Yeah, and then it also does set up the whole point of Harry getting the firebolt later on.
And you know what, too? That can you imagine if Harry had died from that fall? Like if he had died, how fucking much trouble Fudge would have been for making that.
Oh my god!
The Wizarding World would have like literally brought out fucking McNair to chop his head off.
I get to cut a human's head off
Right?
today.
I'm pretty sure like he would have to like never leave his house because they'd Avada Kedavra him. Like,
I mean, well, I think the school probably would have been shut down because you got 2 deaths within 50 years of it. It would probably, at least Dumbledore would probably be taken out as the head of the school.
I don't know if they would have took him out because of the fact that he from the get-go said it wasn't a good idea.
If he was that apprehensive, however, he should have had contingency plans if something like this happened, and he was unable to prevent it.
The Dementors act on their own to go to this Quidditch match,
which is scary, which is really scary.
On their own, which is why he was even more pissed off by the
because they were given strict fucking orders and they didn't listen.
Yeah, but I mean, like, okay, say it wasn't Dementors. What if it was giants? Like 2 giants came down the mountain
at the
and
same
started.
time, because the giants are just as unpredictable. Well, that's like when Voldemort takes over and he brings it's giants, it's Dementors, like all those creatures that these people, like the wizards, take for granted and don't realize like they're their own entities and mistreat. That comes back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah.
So like they literally underestimate the Dementors. So they're like, yeah, it's totally safe. They follow orders. No. They don't follow orders.
They tolerate you.
They go where the food is, and you're giving them food in Azkaban, so they're okay with it. But now you're putting them literally. It's like putting a person on like The Biggest Loser to work in a donut shop. Like you're literally tempting them with a good time.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like the first match was a definite setup to have for the third match, because the third match of them actually winning was because they played 3.
You're right. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, because there's the Fate Dementors and there's the actual World Cup winning.
House Cup, you keep saying World Cup.
I
That's next book.
I know. I apologize.
Sorry, memory. So it's Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, then Slytherin for the cup?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because Slytherin lost to Ravenclaw. Gotcha.
But I think the disappointing feelings you have with the first match makes the third match that much more powerful.
Oh yeah, you're biting your nails to see what as you're reading,
and then just getting the firebolt, and then having, okay, Hermione was in the right to a degree to suspect the firebolt, but do you think she was in the right
way?
Yes, backsiding that and telling McGonagall.
It makes sense for Hermione. I understand how mad they were, and especially because Hermione never quite understood how important Quidditch is to these two. Because Hermione never quite liked flying, which I think that's pretty fair for a Muggle-born to not like flying. Like
she wasn't like
because she didn't like when we do the theastrals.
Thestrals.
Thank you. This is my hooked on phonics not working for me. But she didn't like flying on that. She didn't like flying on Buck Beach. She didn't like flying on the broom. She never liked flying.
Yeah.
Like, I think even apparating, I don't think she actually excelled at it as easily as everybody else seemed to have gotten it.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I would have to
feel like
reread
it didn't
that.
go that well.
But no, I agree with you. She obviously doesn't quite get it. She was in the right to suspect, like, okay, it could be another plot.
Yeah.
But she...
In all fairness, who spends that much money on revenge? You know, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of things. And then Wood does bring up a good point where it's like we would have heard the Quidditch store being broken into if that was the case.
However, I mean, now we know that Crookshanks, like, they mailed in an order form.
Yeah.
Order form with Black's account number on it.
Yeah.
However, but then, like, how far would somebody go for revenge? You just look at the plot. But Dark Knight Rises, like, it's killing her father. That's why she's able to this entire thing for... Yes, even though it was probably cheaper to buy 10 nuclear weapons than to dump everything in that fusion. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, I know. I see what you're saying. But I mean,
that's a contrived plot, though.
Yeah. That's just a different element. Whereas, I understand why she couldn't convince Harry and Ron that.
But
they
what
have
if she
to
was
check
right
this out.
and he died because of the firebolt?
Oh man, she'd never forgive Ron.
No. And I don't think Ron would forgive himself, honestly.
Yeah, no, Ron would beat himself up. He'd probably end up in, like, St. Mungo's or something.
Yeah, he would become, probably
Yeah.
like Hagrid, he'd probably end up becoming an alcoholic later in life,
Yeah.
knowing the most famous wizard of our age, and I killed him because I was stupid about
My
it.
best friend. I don't even think he would say my famous. I think he'd say my
Yeah,
best
he would
friend.
say my best friend first.
It's like kind of like those, like, people who are driving drunk with their friend in the car and the friend doesn't make it and they do. Like, you're literally carrying the guilt of that every day. I watched, like, it's like an MTV, like, series that only played, like, 3 episodes, but, like, a girl, like, went to prison for it. She's like, we were both drunk and I was the less of 2. And she's like, we got followed after the club and, like, the guy, like, literally ran us off the road. But, you know, she was taller than me, so when the roof collapsed, it... And so, like, can you imagine? Like, you literally, not only are you killing your best friend, but you're going to jail, you're doing this. So, like, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If Hermione was right and something was wrong with that. And I also think it took them a little longer than it should take really clever wizards and witches to check out the fireball.
I think what they did was they checked it, like,
gazillion
multiple
times.
So it was just like, well, maybe we didn't do the correct spell on this.
Yeah.
So you had, like, pretty much every professor in the school, like, dissect the shit out of it.
But also, it could have been cleared like a week before, and McGonagall could have lifted their spears by giving it back the day before. Or it could just be a contrivance for the story to make it that much more powerful going into that match.
It's, you know, McGonagall cares just as much about the House Cup as Oliver Wood does. Like, which is so funny because you wouldn't picture McGonagall.
Yeah, she's so
be a
stiff,
Quidditch.
and then she's like a Quidditch fanatic.
Yeah, like it's so, like, I really don't think she did it to be.
No, she could give the broom right back to Harry. She would have done it as soon as possible so he can actually practice on it.
But also, you have those feelings of triumph in the second match of, like, the fake Dementors attack, and then Harry's like, I shot a Patronus, it kind of worked. Like, well, you shot a Patronus.
Lupin was happy for her.
He was
Yeah.
happy, but then you just look at the three dumbasses, like, all tangled in
what
the
I don't
cloaks
get
together.
is, with that, now everyone knowing how severe Harry's reaction is to it, why were they not in more trouble than they were?
That would probably be like a month's worth of detention to probably be on mine.
Yeah, like, I from what it didn't really go into much detail, but, like, that's something that, like, you literally could have killed him.
Yeah.
Because everybody saw him fall off his broom last time. Like,
Right.
So if that's another one, if he had died, can you imagine, like, the uproar it would have been?
Yeah, the Malfoys would definitely have something to answer to, but I feel like they would not be in much trouble as, like, Crabbe and Goyle's family.
Yeah.
But I also feel like during that second match, probably every teacher had their hand on their wands
Just in case
of that match.
Oh,
Just
yeah, they probably like a perimeter set up.
yeah, and like Professor Flitwick having, like, he had to go retrieve the the Nimbus 2000. He loses his Nimbus 2000 after the first match, after he goes careening into the Whomping Willow, which broke it into splinters. And everybody must have been on, and because we only get to see Lupin being very proud of Harry using Patronus and during that, but you gotta think, what if you're Dumbledore just like watching, like making sure, and all of a sudden he uses Patronus, he's probably like,
whoa. Dumbledore, because Dumbledore knew from the get-go that a little bit of Voldemort was put into Harry. Harry, he had this all kind of spelt out. So I think he knew that he was going to be really talented and he could handle magic that an average kid his age couldn't. But go ahead.
Okay, verdict on what McGonagall gave Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. Detention for all of them and 50 points from Slytherin.
See, and I think that's actually a really minor punishment.
Yeah, because McGonagall has given 50 points each to Harry, Ron, and Hermione and Neville, and multiple detentions and stuff like that. So it's like, that seems like they just got off.
Personally, I think he should have been expelled off of the Quidditch team. I think they should have been banned from Quidditch matches. But I also...
Snape would have caused an uproar with that, though.
Not even that. I don't think it's Snape. It's his father. I think a degree of... Because, I had an employee once who we didn't like to write up, even though he was an awful employee, because every time we write up, his mother would get on the phone. And I was like, man, your son's 18. I don't have to discuss this with you. I'm getting screamed at for doing my job. But, so I think they probably were, easier about disciplining Malfoy. But I do still think that's really light compared to... I'm sorry, Dakota is so distracting.
I'm sorry, my phone just died.
It's unfortunate.
You can plug it on mine that's over there.
Please do.
Switch phones.
Good night text message and God forbid.
Oh, yeah. Do you need my phone? Don't do that. Never mind. I thought about it. Yeah. I'm texting you from Nikki's phone. Okay, now that we did this technology thing. Oh, no, it's because you have a crazy case.
No, it's an easy case.
No, yours is crazy.
How's it crazy? Yours
Look, he's struggling.
I'm not on the bottom disposal squad for a reason, damn it.
Anyway, yeah, so I think they punished him less, but that definitely was...
How hard was that?
Fuck you.
That was way too minor of a punishment.
Don't fall in.
See you in 3 years.
I had a friend of mine, I said that to him, don't fall in. He did fall in that once, so that's why I always prompt every friend saying that. Yeah, so and then the third match, everything goes off without a hitch. They win the House Cup, and just pure elation, pure joy. You're just like, oh my God. You just feel like you broke something off for Harry and everybody at that point. However, Hermione doesn't get a chance to celebrate it because Ron throws in her face your cat killed my rat, and she's runs off in tears, and I'm just like,
poor Hermione never gets invited to the party.
Yeah, and that's the same night where and it's funny. It's almost like the story gets his Ron has kind of his comeuppance a little bit with Sirius scaring the shit out of him that night, coming in with the knife. Because they remember they go
same night, yeah.
Yeah, because they partied into the wee hours in the morning. McGonagall had to come and shut that shit down like it was a kegger gone awry, and he gets the shit scared out of him by Sirius. Now, while we wait for our guest to get out of the shitter now.
That was an awkward laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
There we go. Hi. Time Turner. Feelings on the Time Turner in this book.
I know you have stronger feelings on the Time Turner than I do. I don't hate the Time Turner. I think it would make 1,010% sense that the Ministry of Magic would have complete control over who gets to access time, especially since the consequences can be so dire. And you learn, with the when you can turn yourself into an animal, you have to literally be on a list so that they can make sure. And just passing your apparition test, they keep checks on these things because they want to make sure that wizards are safe and that Muggles are safe, that everybody's safe. And so I like the idea of the time turtle. I think it would make sense for wizards to be able to change time so easily. It's just, you flip a dial. It's so quick, but it's so detrimental. Like, you literally can cause yourself to go insane. So I know, you're gonna like have a whole thing about it, but it didn't bother me. And it made sense to me that Hermione would be the one who would have that kind of power, who they would trust with something like that. Because let's face it, Hermione's probably the most responsible student at Hogwarts.
No, I agree with you. It would make sense for any wizard to have it. It would be Hermione, but at the same time, I even had to ask you off microphone, like, what was it, last week or something like that? How, if to avoid a paradox, how come Hermione can go to all these multiple classes, but where does she become one person again?
Yeah, she literally has to meet up with her like other time self at the exact same place that she changed times. So say like it was the potions dungeon and she was right outside the classroom, she would have to give herself enough time to run there and change, which is why she was always super out of breath when you see her like rushing from classes. And it's like, wasn't Hermione just behind me? It's because she's literally going from like polar opposite ends of the spectrum.
I mean, it's a very complicated. I mean, it has to be complicated because it gives the weight of this is some serious magic and a lot of stuff could go horribly wrong. But at the same time, it's almost feels overly complicated to like where I'm 24 years old and I'm having a problem fully grasping the concept of this. So a kid reading this would probably go right over his head.
See, I think that was the point too. I think it was sculpted in a way that you would understand the complexity of it and not look too much into it. Because I think in order to do time travel in a kid's book in a way that's accessible to kids, you have to make it like, hey, this is going to be really hard to understand, so just roll with it. And I think that's more so what she did.
Much like the TARDIS and the time machine in Back to the Future, we don't get into the real mechanics of how you go through space and time.
Does what it does.
It just does that for the sake of it. Like, how does this work? I'll explain later, and then I'll get back to it. Yeah. My problem is Harry and Hermione go back in time in order to prevent Sirius died from the Dementors after being captured and preventing Buckbeak from being executed. They save Buckbeak. They stand there for an X amount of minutes before Snape shows up. Harry could have darted out, grabbed the invisibility cloak, and got back to his... Put that on! And then just walked back to his place where he was before Snape got there and could have prevented so much right there. Or running into the Shrieking Shack and say, just listen to me! Sure, you're running into your older self and you could cause a parallel... an anomaly and they destroy the entire universe, to quote Doc Brown, but you've already taken a risk of already bringing X amount of mass to that universe, having two versions of Harry there at the same time. You bring so many kind of complications to that she kind of like, that's every time travel story. I just wish they weren't so stagnant once they got back in time. They just literally stand around for hours until the events play out.
See,
I think they said that's a rule that you really cannot change events
like it was
that.
a condition of her having it, and I think a majority of the reason why they are so stagnant is because it's not that if they see themselves, like especially Hermione would be super aware, like, oops, that's earlier me, gotta get out of here. But I think it's because if somebody else sees you. Like if Fudge had run into double Harry and Hermione, now you're literally creating a dual, like a parallel line there. And like even like Hagrid comes like drunkenly stumbling past where future Harry and Hermione are sitting, and it's like, see, Hagrid would have, and then he would imagine he yelled at them and was like, go to the castle, and then the whole reason that they came back to everything they came back to do, they couldn't do because now they have to play into this line. Almost kind of like, you know when like Harry does the Felix
fancy?
Thank you. I just can't talk today. I apologize. Great day for a podcast and you can't talk. But I'm rolling with it. I set that up, didn't I? But yeah, like even when he's going through with all that, like that was everything that happened. He had to react, like he just reacted accordingly. He went with everything that happened. So if that was to happen, while he's doing that, then while he's doing this, when they do finally get to meet back with their time traveling selves, they're gonna have like, wait, what happened? What did this like? Does this make any sense, or am I literally just babbling? Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Damn it! I was so close. It's the rolling down the river that really matches.
Yes, blame Tina Turner and
Yeah, damn it, Tina.
Where's Ike?
Where did I lose you?
having,
Roll it back for me.
having both sets of memories of how things could have
Yeah.
gone. But that's every time travel story. Like, one of the best DC animated movies was Flashpoint, where Flash goes to another dimension where everything's upside down, where, like, for instance, Bruce Wayne died the night of his parents lived. His father becomes Batman, and his mother became the Joker after she loses her mind after her son.
What?
And,
This is crazy.
and then once he resets everything, he's like, I can remember both things. I remember having my mother in my life, and then I remember her not being in my life, and he has to live with those two sets of memories now existing in him.
and
Batman says, well, aren't you fortunate?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like but it wouldn't be just Harry and Hermione having those two sets. It would be these other characters. It's like Hagrid would be like, "There's no way you did what you said you did," because so now you're literally just getting more complicated. It's just like layering it on because it's like now, well, Snape's gonna be like, "No, I saw them," and it's like, "No, I saw them." So like they have to make sure they're not seen because it just changes everything.
I mean, the Ministry of Magic obviously has that squad to take care of like magical mishaps.
Yeah, but they
So-
try not to do that with like.
In the Wizarding World,
Wizarding World.
but I think that would be an extreme case, like, oh
Like
shit, time just got messed up here, so we have to go back in and erase some memories and
But then in
figure out.
turn, you'd have to do more. Like I feel like the best way to erase it to make sure it didn't happen, and you'd have to do more time traveling. You literally just have to keep going and going and going, and it'd be this really vicious
time lock
time
it.
circle.
You just time lock it like it's
You know, like it's like
Or you can
okay,
just kill the people.
attention all like time turner holders. This time and this date is now a travel blackout date,
Yeah.
and like you know, like I feel like that's literally it's. Just speaking of the magical maladies, like squad, I picture them as Men in Black. Like they come
Yeah,
in
pretty
with,
much
like,
with a
serum
neuralizer,
burns.
yeah. But my favorite, the issues I have with the time turner in the story aside, has one of my favorite images from the fifth book is when they're in the Ministry of Magic battling the Death Eaters, where one of them stumbles back into where they keep all the time turners and it breaks, and it keeps repairing itself, and then breaking again. It keeps repairing itself, and it gets stuck in that loop. And I'm just imagining this hourglass is just being torn apart, then repurposing themselves. But it's not the biggest complaint I have with this Harry Potter series. My biggest complaint actually comes in the next book, in Goblet of Fire. My biggest issue in any of the Harry Potter ones comes in that, but we'll get to that there. We'll do best moments, worst moments, and then we'll do our summation. So if you can choose...
We're already at the summation. I feel like we didn't talk about half this book. Oh my god, this is gonna get bad when we start talking about the later books.
I mean, we're like an hour and 40 minutes
Yeah,
into
right.
it.
And
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't really. There's
I mean, what would you like to talk about?
no, like we don't talk about how like it's really Peter Pettigrew that betrayed his parents. Like,
True.
we mention it. We don't talk about like how Remus didn't even trust his own friend. You know, what else did we not talk about? Oh my god,
The
there's
floor
just
is
so much.
yours since you're bringing it
No,
up.
I'm just saying. Like I feel like we really didn't. And this is actually scaring me a little bit because what are we going to do with the later books? So if we can't cover it on like how many pages is there? Like not even 400 in this
That's
book?
when I first started talking about like
Yeah.
the whole summary of it. It's just there's so many like subplots
Plots.
going on, and it's so hard to like cover every single one of them.
Yeah. Oh my god. I'm literally like panicking. Oh no, our listeners, they won't get this moment. Or even like how gung-ho Fudge was to let Sirius get the frickin' Dementor's kiss, and how like that's a okay punishment to people, like they're literally sucking out their souls. And then we didn't talk about how like Buckbeak gets saved too. There's like 2 innocent lives. We didn't talk about all this stuff.
Dementors.
Well, later on in the books, we obviously we know that Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel make the Sorcerer's Stone, and based on certain things that we know about how to make a Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, it takes human lives to do it. So we don't know if that's like human souls or human lives, but then we just figured that, like, okay, if the Dementors perform the kisses on people, now their shells are just there. Would it be just humane to just like kind of like get rid of them? So Tim and I had this back and forth, like when there were Nicholas Flamel and Dumbledore were fucking around with a.
I'm sorry, my phone just vibrated on the edge of the chair and then flopped over. We all watched it, and then Tim slapped his head, just in case you were wondering what was going on while we all left randomly in the middle of Dakota's story.
Where was that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I'll be honest, I was reading an article really quickly while you were talking.
The shells of human.
I feel so loved.
You were okay, I know where we
you
were.
went to the bathroom in the midst of our conversation,
I know,
all right?
He left us alone and we
he
had
left
to
us.
wait for you, and that's
He
why we
left
didn't.
us. That's not.
We didn't even get
Well,
to
I'm
cover
gonna-
all the stuff because you went to the bathroom.
No, bullshit is what's in the bathroom while you left in there. That's not what's going on the microphones right now.
Yeah, you might need to get a plunger in there sometimes.
Looks could kill. But you were saying how you don't know if it was human souls or human bodies that were
Human
used
lives.
to make human lives, like
That
to make
feels
the,
yeah.
Imagine like there's like overcrowding at Azkaban, so they're just like, here you go, Flamel, have fun, go create some like.
It might be because these are just. It might be just better just to like end the lives, the soulless bodies' lives, and
My God,
just
the
let them
wizarding
linger.
world is getting like darker.
Yeah, it
by
gets
the
really
minute.
fucked up the more you think about it.
Like there's
I
like
can just imagine Nicholas Flamel just destroying people, drinking their blood and stuff like that. Just make him just sound like such a Aleister Crowley. That's what I'm trying to like sum him up being.
whoa.
Which
It's possible.
it's quite
That
possible,
makes
like,
sense.
because we brought that up in our very first podcast about Harry Potter, that it takes a lot of dark magic to create a Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, if you're...
However you want to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it wouldn't, even in Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore's brother brings up the fact, did you really know who my brother really was? Because he had so much dark side to him, so I could see him and Flamel just fucking around, just making really dark stuff like for the shits and giggles.
You know,
You want to see this guy's legs come through his eye socket?
Yes. Maybe not that vehement, likely evil, but
yeah, and especially what's his name,
that's Legend of Zelda, not Gandalf.
You know the one that I'm talking about, Grindelwald,
Griswold?
Dumbledore's BFF.
Oh,
My computer died.
God damn it, Dakota!
Christ on a cross! You just
I can't even look it up on my phone because it vibrated away.
I'm out of here, motherfucker.
One damn text message. Oh my God. But I'm just saying, like, part of me wants to believe that Dumbledore would never really be a part of something that's like dark, but then you realize that there's so much more to Dumbledore than we'll ever truly get to know.
For the sake of learning stamp on.
Yeah, like a Hermione, like where the line got a little blurred.
Yeah.
Because what I had said earlier was, like I said, how Tim had said, oh, she wouldn't break the rules. Was that the means would justify the ends, and that since she considers it for learning and that was her only purpose, she'd be okay with it. I mean, there is the chance that Dumbledore viewed that very same way, but then I don't understand why he'd be quite so tough on Tom Riddle, because
He had the exact same curiosity of like the ends justify the means.
I just think he had more of a predisposition for dark arts.
But since you brought up Peter Pettigrew before, Peter Pettigrew, who actually was the Potter's secret keeper, the person who, if they are entrusted with the secret of hiding two people, will never be able to find out where these people are if they're in hiding, and they won't be able to get the information from him unless he voluntarily tells somebody. Even with the Cruciatus curse, they probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't.
Oh no, I'd imagine most weak people would be able to tell, because the whole my whole thing with Peter Pettigrew is that originally they picked Sirius Black, and everybody's like, we know it was Sirius Black. We know he was the secret keeper. That's an awful person to give your secret to if everyone knows that you would pick Sirius Black. And given Sirius is the type of badass who really would, like, take a secret to a grave, like, if he would be a really good pirate, like, in my opinion.
Yarg!
He literally has a pirate name, too. Like, he literally could be a pirate because it's like, you know, treasure or take... Yeah.
Wow.
Why was Gary... No, Gary didn't do any...
Of the
pirates, right?
No, I think smartly, he probably didn't do it.
I honestly think he could have fit into that universe.
Could he play Captain Jack?
No. Yes, but because Gary Oldman and Johnny Depp are cut from the same cloth, in my opinion.
Yes,
They're really much like the chameleon aspect.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Imagine like Johnny Depp is carrying a piece of Gary Oldman's soul, like he has a Horcrux, and that's why. Never mind.
There's fan fiction probably about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. If not, somebody's gonna write it. And maybe I should get on that.
I was gonna say, like, you're definitely gonna be like, you're gonna be bored at
go
work.
home like. And you'll be like, Nikki, are you learning about beer? No, I'm writing fan fiction.
Like, oh God. I'll get the milk myself this time. Don't worry.
But oh my God! Before I did the Gary Oldman as a pirate, so Sirius Black would have made a badass pirate, but Sirius would have died to keep the Potter safe. And so, what I don't understand is why he trusted Peter better than he trusted Lupin, because they thought Lupin was the traitor.
Yeah.
But why would you think Lupin opposed to think Peter, but I think they literally underestimated how cunning, how desperate Peter Pettigrew was for someone to basically hold his hand and say everything's going to be all right. Like, he picked the winning team. That's why he wasn't BFFs with Snape when they were at school, because why would you be BFFs with Snape when you can have this cool gang of, like, fucking badass wizards as we're going to be marauders, motherfuckers, you know?
Yeah, I can see all of them, especially Peter throwing up gang signs on Hogwarts grounds and stuff like that.
That's exactly what happened. They threw up ancient runes. Who does that? Mortal Instruments. They use runes. They tattoo runes to their body. Fun little fact about other series of young adult fiction. But Grindelwald. I got somewhere close to that.
Yeah, you were close to it. You were closer than both of us.
Way too long to look.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dakota didn't just fuck off for like the last 5 minutes. He was actually doing research for us.
Yeah, this is what happens when your computer dies. Dakota.
I'm just thinking of like Big Lebowski. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. Whack.
Well,
yeah,
that's taking it a little next level. But yeah, I just think Dumbledore has a penchant of picking people who he finds super clever before he realizes exactly what he gets into, and because even he's obsessed with Harry. Why are you looking at me like that?
I just sat there. I have no idea what you were going to say, so I was just going to be like, so what are we going to be talking about? I don't know. I get
I'm just trying to cover all the plot notes.
The reference is the SS officer from Raiders of the Lost Ark when he goes into the tent.
He's the interrogator for Mary, and he's the one who gets the medallion burned into his hand and stuff like that. Nikki does not look impressed by our nerdiness right here.
Forget it. I don't want to cover all the plot points anymore.
Sirius Black is a pirate. As we were talking about, we started about like Sirius Black as this pirate.
Where's John Taffer when you need it? Shut it down. Anyway, yeah, Sirius Black would make a badass pirate. That's basically what you missed while you were researching.
And I was just like, da, 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 and then imagining Gary Oldman
just
as
saying,
Captain
Jeffrey
Jack.
Rush played like a really badass Barbossa. So if you had like Jeffrey Rush's Barbossa and Gary Oldman's whatever or / Sirius Black's whatever pirate name that he shall have, yeah,
it works. I mean,
right? It's
plays.
a fucking pirate name.
But also, you entrust.
Sorry, I got really loud about that.
It's okay. You gotta go yarging all the way home after that.
I'm gonna go drink a fucking bottle of rum and yo-ho my way to sleep.
Yo-ho your way from sobriety right there. But like,
You can take that so many different ways too. Like I never realized how dirty that saying is until
yeah, it is really.
it's like uncomfortably dirty.
I didn't mean like that.
You know?
But that's also like when everybody's drinking something, I'm always like, yeah, you put that in your mouth, just because they're drinking something, they are putting it in their mouth. But of course, everybody's just like, oh, really? Because I have the maturity level of the reading. Supposed audience for these books. So that's how I justify
I think we
it.
all do.
With Sirius being the supposed secret keeper, and I understand like everybody's gonna expect, oh, he'd be the secret keeper and everything like that. Wouldn't you think it'd be safer with him being the secret keeper rather than giving it to somebody else?
See, and Dumbledore offered to do it, and this is what I don't get, because honestly, I probably would have picked Dumbledore over the obvious secret keeper as well, because
Nobody's gonna be able to.
Voldemort's not gonna fucking touch Dumbledore. For whatever reason, Voldemort is scared to death of Dumbledore, and especially younger Dumbledore.
Yeah, but also, I don't think he ever got past the teacher-student
Oh my god!
relationship between the two of them.
Dynamic.
Dynamic. Even when we see in the pensive flashback where we see him wanting to be a teacher there, he doesn't treat him as an adult. He treats him kind of like as a child when that moment.
Talks down to him.
Yeah, and even like saying like, what's this club you got running around that's hanging around the bar not too far from here? Like, you're Death Eaters or whatever you call him. Do you want to get your phone?
No, it's okay. I don't want to move the mic because I don't want to be Dakota.
Dick. Ow!
And so, thank you. I was just kidding. I'm sorry. I pick on Dakota a lot. I don't mean to. It just happened.
No, I'm not coming back here anymore. You guys are mean.
Oh, God.
Fuck you.
That's not true.
That's impossible.
I'm sorry. Thank you for getting my phone, Dakota.
Search your feelings.
I feel connected now.
Oh, man.
Good times.
You haven't on him being the secret keeper.
Yeah.
So, well, Dumbledore obviously would be like the absolute safest choice. I mean, by far, it's like, oh, don't need to worry about him. But I think the accessibility of him.
Oh, like he's such a public figure.
He's so not just that, but like Lily and James need to like let people know where the hell they are. So Dumbledore's not always available to be like, oh yeah.
But I thought the whole idea of being a secret keeper is that you're literally going into hiding. Like, I think they were prepared to cut off. Someone's like witness protection.
Yeah, but they also did that with the Order of Phoenix base, and like everyone, like Dumbledore was the secret keeper that he wrote. Like,
yeah, but like the whole thing is like the Order of the Phoenix members started like getting picked off like one by one. So like I kind of almost think like it's better that no one knows because especially you don't. There's a leak, and you don't know who it is. And why Sirius thinks it's Remus, I don't get. But then again, Remus thinks it's Sirius. But I actually kind of understand that more, because Sirius is kind of like a loose cannon. But, like, I just don't think they would want people to know. I think they're, like, trying to raise their kid until the heat dies down.
I think because the fact that, like, okay, Dumbledore's never around and everything like that, and obviously it would be probably safest there, but he's never around. Sirius is obviously the obvious choice to go to. And followed up by Lupin. So Pettigrew, being as inept as he was, or seemingly as inept as he was, would probably be the not-so-obvious choice, which would probably be the safest out of the three of them. Because the other two could get captured and tortured to death. But Pettigrew, it's like, oh, why would they trust you?
Yeah, but that's my thing, too, because, yeah, like, I can understand that. Like, you're like, all right, like, who's the least likely in this circle? But they never, like, almost kind of feel like Pettigrew was the Neville without actually being what Neville becomes. And so, like, I can't imagine Harry, like, in school going, like, yeah, let me give my firebolt to Neville because he'll protect it. You know what I mean? Like, why would you protect your life with somebody you don't trust? Well, I guess they did trust them if they did that, but
they should have made Pettigrew the secret keeper and then killed him.
They should have made him the secret keeper and made him take an unbreakable oath.
Which definitely seems, that's how you know this wasn't written, the things are written as they were going on. Otherwise, that would have been perfectly. This is just hindsight talking now.
Because they're not going to kill him. They're not going to do that. That's not Lily and James. But, like, I definitely think, and the fact of the matter is he wouldn't do it, and then they would know automatically he's a spy, then they would have been able to kill him, and then they could have got a better secret keeper, and then this book series would have been...
Hell, they could have made Hagrid the secret keeper at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's no, but that's the equivalent of Pettigrew and Hagrid. Like, you literally... Hagrid doesn't mean to tell his secrets. He just does. Whereas Pettigrew knew what he was doing and exploited that because he was scared. And he literally, like, that's, like, probably one of the most despicable things
I wouldn't
to do.
put it on the same level at all. I mean, Hagrid is a lot of things, but he's not, like...
I just think... As far as keeping the secret, it's on the same level.
Yeah, but why would they suspect Pettigrew to all of a sudden just turn tail and go run to Voldemort? I mean, they weren't expecting that.
Yeah, but
he was
you
in
would
the order
expect
with
him
them.
to be tortured and not give you up when you know who he is as a person. Like, these, like, it's literally like Harry, Ron, and Hermione. They spent, thick as thieves, spend all the time together, literally turn into animals so that they can continue to spend all their time together. They're going to know him inside and out, and they're going to know that he's not strong enough for something that literally you're putting your life on the line by agreeing to.
It's one of those like blind gambles where it's like, okay, we obviously don't know he's definitely not strong enough to be held with a secret, but if anyone else on the other side knows that the same thing, they wouldn't bother with him. So you're gambling that Voldemort side is thinking the same exact way you're thinking. So they
not realizing that the Voldemort side already has Pettigrew. All right, yeah, I can see. I'm just
it's complicated.
Dumbest. And I mean, I guess you have to have because they are humans and they're so trusting, they're so loving, and they're going to go with it. But.
Was Snape on their side at this point?
No.
I don't think Snape was ever truly on their side. I think Snape was on Lily's. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he didn't help Albus until after Lily's death. Okay.
Like, he was played like he was a double agent.
Well, it wasn't a surprise it wasn't a secret that he was working with Voldemort up to that point, but he came running to Dumbledore as soon as like he's going to kill Lily and James. He's going to kill Lily.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you sure about that? It's like, yes. Yeah, but so that was like, so that's why Dumbledore was like, you gotta get a secret keeper.
Yeah.
You gotta go in hiding and get a secret keeper right now. And then when Voldemort found out through Pettigrew, with Snape withheld the fact that Pettigrew was the insider, I don't even think Snape knew at that point. And came back as like, I told him not to kill Lily and everything like that. That's when he switched.
Yeah.
So I think he was 90% on Voldemort's side, but held Dumbledore with such high respect that he would still like. And
you know what it is? Voldemort really wouldn't have killed Lily. Like I actually think he really like. She wouldn't get out of the way. She wouldn't get out of the way, and that says to who they were as people.
But that also kind of showed that Voldemort's like actual. I mean, Voldemort's all about himself. He's very honest.
Well, I think that actually pissed him off more because of his own mother. His own mother didn't choose him over herself. She gave him away. She was so devastated that Marvolo wasn't about it.
Yeah, but
not Marvolo. Tom.
But that was like almost like kind of a reward for Snape, like because you've done such a good job for me, like I will spare Lily for you. And then obviously, like, well, I was, but she was being a dick, and so I had to kill her.
Yeah.
I mean, James already put up a fight against him, so he's probably already a little pissed off that it wasn't a simple conversation.
I don't think he gets super emotional, like, which sounds ridiculous because I think, like, especially in the movies he's played is really emotional, like super dramatic. But I think more he's pretty level-headed.
I think he was expecting he was going to kill James no matter what.
Yeah, James was dying, but Lily was. I agree. Like, I think Lily was going to be saved for that reason, and like he has no problem telling Harry, knowing what that'll feel like. You know, like Voldemort is in the same fucking shoes as Harry because literally they were treated the exact same way. But it just bothers me that somebody. Maybe that's just more. It just bothers me because it just bothers me in our world, not just the Wizarding world, is that they trusted someone so much and they gave it to someone they know is a weak person. Like, I have friends, love them to death, but I won't tell them my deepest, darkest secrets because I know it'll get out.
Yeah. No.
And there's a difference between being like a Hagrid where it comes out in accident and then being malicious.
He doesn't mean to do it, yeah. No, but my theory is the whole bluff. Like,
so they just thought it would be the best diversion to action.
Yeah, because the obvious choice would be Sirius, and why trust Pettigrew because he's so incompetent.
And that goes back to what you were saying about Sirius being so impulsive to him. It was just that if he had been smart about it, he could have exposed Pettigrew as being on Voldemort's side, as being the real reason. That instead, he just goes and blows up.
Yeah, he acted on his emotions.
Yeah, and I mean, can you really blame him? Like, he was the reason they convinced. It's almost like what we said with Ron. Like, if Ron had been the reason to kill Harry.
At the same time, it would have been really difficult for Sirius to, like, oh shit, not like everyone thought, including Dumbledore, that I was the secret keeper. Everyone thought that. So I mean, obviously, your gut his reaction was, "Let's go." I'm going to fucking kill Pettigrew, but his first reaction is, "I gotta go to Dumbledore right now."
And and that's what I don't get. Like,
I mean, I think we have to keep in the fact this is a children's book.
Yeah.
But I mean, not saying that should just be excuse of like plot holes or anything like that. However, I probably would have moved the Potters after making a Secret Keeper. Still, without the Secret Keeper's knowledge.
But I thought the whole reason you had a Secret Keeper is in order to make the charm work.
Yeah.
Like, they have to know where you were.
They were the person that goes back and forth. They were the person feeding them.
Like the lifeline.
Right. I don't know. I just feel like, I wouldn't have kept them out in the world. I probably bring them to the safest. Like, we're talking about things that happened later in the books and stuff like that. Or actually, technically, this happened earlier before the book started.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have kept the Potters out in the world. I would have brought them to the Ministry of Magic, or I would have brought them to Hogwarts, someplace that would.
So you can't bring them to the Ministry of Magic because it's infiltrated with
Death Eaters.
Yeah.
And they have.
There's like no place safe other than
All
Hogwarts.
this shit going down, they have to live their own lives.
Yes.
You can't keep them at Hogwarts because they're what are you going to do?
Yeah, you can't live, and it's like you can't. Oh, it's like, all right, you can live in Hogsmeade, but even then, you're super easy to access for anybody with any kind of magical abilities, and it's like you can't bring them to the Ministry because literally, even when the Ministry is cleaned up, it's still not cleaned up. Look at Lucius is running around like he like owns the place, and and so there was just no place for them to go, and someone's gonna really fucking say it. Like, they're literally, not only were they murdered, but they were murdered because one of their best and truest friends.
It's the Greek tragedy kind of really comes to fruition there. Now, you brought up a good point. Hogsmeade as a place to go.
Look at all the things we didn't talk about, Tim.
Boom.
Mic drop. Just kidding. These are expensive. Anyway, go back to Hogsmeade. Hogsmeade, Tim. Hogsmeade.
No. Since you brought it up in conversation, you could start.
No, but I don't know where exactly you were leading the conversation.
Is it's the last remaining strictly wizarding development in the UK is pretty much what it is, and it's right outside the steps of the grounds of Hogwarts. So the kids from Hogwarts can go to Hogsmeade, but they have to sign a permission slip, and that's where Harry gets totally screwed in the beginning of the book because that's why. But that's all set up because then he has to get the Aurora's map, sneaks out, goes, finds out all this horrible stuff because he was eavesdropping on Cornelius Fudge and the professors of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And just whole snowballs from there. But Hogsmeade, it comes up multiple times throughout the rest of the books.
And then you have of course, and it has the three broomsticks. It has the Hog's Head. Honeydukes. And then the Shrieking Shack right outside of it. And the Shrieking Shack is a building that's supposed to be the most haunted place in Britain. That for years there were shrieks coming in there periodically, but it's been quiet ever since. But we find out that it was actually just Remus, and they believed to be ghosts that were haunting it, and the whole townspeople talked about it. It's kind of funny. Goblet of Fire opens up with pretty much an urban legend of how the Riddles died and how people view that building.
It's my favorite chapter in the whole series is that first chapter.
I think it's good up until Voldemort's there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like That's why, because it's such a, because it doesn't open up on Harry. All the other books open up
With
usually Harry
Yeah.
in there.
Up to that point, yeah.
And it almost reads like, of course, it's not like there's a narrator or anything like that, but it's just like how the story is told. But almost told like this is almost could be like its own documentary about like what happened in this one town that Muggles don't realize what it is. But of course, once you have the information, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Then it
like a
plays
Twilight Zone episode.
Yes.
Like that's kind of how I always read it in my head. Like the little old housekeeper.
But like there was like they died in a mysterious way, and everybody thinks he did it, but he keeps living there and taking care of the grounds long after people who have given up on the building itself. That's how people view the Shrieking Shack. It was this weird building that showed up, scared the shit out of people for a couple of years, but it turns out it was just Lupin whenever he turned into a werewolf would just wolf out
And
there.
attack himself, so he'd like it would be his own cries of pain, which is sad.
When I first started reading the series, I thought that the Riddle House and the Shrieking Shack was the same thing. But yeah,
Wow, that's interesting.
that's how I read it at first. But the Riddle House is in a completely strict Muggle area. There's like no wizarding stuff whatsoever around.
Well,
not
because
there's
the little like shack that the
yeah, that's not too far away.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
No, but yeah, I was, growing up, I always thought that was the same thing because obviously the house was there before it was known as the Shrieking Shack.
Yeah.
So
It had to have been a house that they didn't just prop up like a shady little shanty.
yeah, we're just
for a
gonna slap
werewolf.
this horrible.
You know how what I was confused about? How did they get the Whomping Willow to grow so quickly?
Sprout
Do you think like she like
magic.
Yeah, but I feel like there's only so much they could do because it wasn't like they could fast forward the mandrakes.
Unless they bought a large, a fully grown or
Or, like,
almost
transported.
fully grown Whomping Willow and just slapped it there.
Wonder if Whomping Willows are common. Like if you were just like walking through the
It
woods
might be
one day and like
Black Forest and like
Right.
other like
all those
shady areas.
places that they tell you like, oh, don't go in the forest at night because it's haunted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just side note there. But yeah, no, I could totally see that actually kind of makes a lot of sense because I could see that it's like, oh, here's another house. Like you just kind of put it in its place.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what it is now, it's a completely different town, a completely different side of it of the UK. But yeah,
What did they do with the Shrieking Shack? The Shrieking Shack after all this is found out, and like they know that it's not haunted. It was actually just a
well, the
teacher
village
werewolf.
doesn't know.
Oh, so that they don't.
I
do
don't. I
anything
think the
about it?
village still doesn't know that it was Lupin the entire time. It was just the three of them finding out what it was.
True.
They turn it into the Shake Shack that you see at City Field. That's what they turn it into afterwards.
Turn it into Sugar Shack and some shady shit goes down in there.
Too many yeses right there. I'm sorry. Here's the Sugar Shack and the shady stuff goes down there. I'm just like, oh.
You noticed that I didn't repeat it.
Yeah, I opened the door on that one.
I did pick up that.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into favorite? Okay, now, how about this? The confrontation between Pettigrew and Sirius, where 12 Muggles died via explosion between the which I don't explain. Did Pettigrew?
I think Pettigrew did it.
Yeah,
Did it.
but I mean, was it like they were both dueling and it was just a result of it, or he just tried to take everybody out?
I
with
think
it?
Sirius went to confront him and like was about to like yell at him like you would somebody who you considered your friend, and then Pettigrew was just like, boom, motherfucker, and like blew everything up. Which just goes to show that Pettigrew was always a motherfucking shady motherfucker because you don't just blow up 12 people. Like even
And
Sirius,
leaving a crater.
like Sirius went to kill him one-on-one. It's not like he's like, hey, Remus, guess what I heard? And he like calls up his buddies and they go in the little gang of like flying motorcycles. Like, no. Like he literally went to confront his friend on his betrayal, and like Pettigrew like literally blew up a bunch of people and cut his own finger off. Like, it's not easy to cut your finger off.
No, that was an act of desperation because I think Sirius could flat out destroy the living hell out of Pettigrew, and then also if he showed like an ounce of restraint, could keep him alive to prove that he what he did to the Potters.
Mm-hmm.
So Pettigrew is probably just like Voldemort's gone, so Voldemort's not going to protect me anymore.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to avoid all this, blame Sirius, fake my own death, and just live life comfortably for the rest of my life.
But desperation and like psychoness are sometimes go hand in hand.
Yeah,
like,
and that's not the the thought process of someone of
normal
sound mind.
Yeah.
My thing is, why didn't Sirius put up a fight once he was arrested? Why was he just standing there laughing as Fudge tells the story?
Because
is he distraught?
No, it's serious, and he's like, literally, he's like, this is ridiculous because it's when you think about it, it's laugh worthy in like a maniacal way, not like a haha. This is
but
really
he also
funny.
thinks Peter is dead at that point.
Yeah, he's like, this motherfucker just blew up town to kill himself to get away, and now I'm still going to take the fall, even though I was innocent. And I think that's literally like,
Sirius did blame himself.
Yeah.
For the whole thing because he said it was his insistence that it goes to Pettigrew.
Yeah.
Being secret keeper, so obviously knowing that Pettigrew betrayed the Potters, and now he thinks Pettigrew's dead. Revenge is served.
Like a cruel,
vengeance is served, but he still is living with the guilt that the Potters.
Yeah,
are
like
dead,
the universe
so
is playing a cruel, trick on him though. Like it's literally like a cruel trick because it's like, and even with guilt, like he could have exonerated himself, and now he can't because. Yep. Peter said, because Sirius isn't dumb. As impulsive as he is, he's very smart.
Very intelligent.
And, like, even when he's high, like, who thinks of, hey, let me use this cat to put an order in for a firebolt? Like, he has time to think about these things. So I think, like, it was one of those things, like, it's so awful you have to laugh. Because it literally is awful. Because now not only does he have to live with his guilt, but he has no way of proving that yes, he has his own guilt, but he's still innocent, and he has no way of proving it. He also just lost
3 of his best friends in a matter of 24 hours.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So.
And Lupin won't talk to him because Lupin was convinced that he did it, so he has no one.
Having the probably the sentiment, or not the feelings that, like, oh, you thought I was a traitor, that didn't go along with help the matter of, like, thinking that he was innocent or anything like that. But, It's really strange, and then how Fudge and then obviously and along with everybody else arrest Sirius, and that Sirius is rather not content, but he's rather calm despite being in Azkaban. He explains it that he
transformed into a dog to
escape and stuff like that. But I'm talking about like
he transformed into a dog to keep his sanity.
Right. And the Dementors never realized it, but once he found out, like, oh, Fudge is coming here, like that Transformer sound into a dog.
My biggest question is, why did Fudge give him the Daily Prophet?
I think it was just, he says he felt bad for him. He's like, oh, I just felt bad for him. I don't think he realized there was.
He said he was like confused because.
Yeah, he was of such sound mind.
Yeah, he just.
And nobody else was in there. Yeah, everybody else. And to Fudge, that was him being a complete, like a Hannibal Lecter. You know what I mean? Like, he's so intelligent, so sociopathic, that he literally, that's why he thought he was bored. And he was just like, all right, here you go. Here's my Daily Prophet. I don't think he ever, for in a million years, thought that he would set him down on this, like, breakout.
Hell, I mean, even, like, Clarice gave the files to Lecter to read and stuff like that. Oh, the answers aren't on those cheap shoes, Clarice. Sorry. But it's also kind of contrived that the one prophet he gets, Peter Pettigrew, is on the cover.
And what's the chance of that? Like, really? What are the chances of that?
It's convenient, yes. But
life is funny like that, though.
That is true. Like
serendipitous, is that the term? Well,
yeah, but
would that be that where it's like it's just?
I would say more
which there's plenty of cases in all of our lives of small world things like, oh, you knew that? Like, really? Yeah. It's interesting, and the reason, like, it's such a complicated book to talk about because there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why it's one of my favorite books too.
How in depth it goes into, like, literally everything. was definitely not a half-assed book.
However, like, oh, you don't know the story of Sirius Black? Let me tell you in excruciating detail. Just so happens that Harry happens to overhear this. Well, he had to find out some way, I know.
You kind of find out a little bit.
But I mean, it's such a
Well, he
It's
knew
such a
little
big
from-
exposition dump in the broomstick,
And
though.
this was the first time he snuck out, right? That was the first time he did it? Because the second time
Yes.
Hermione wasn't around.
yes.
Yeah, and that's where he gets in trouble with Snape.
Yeah, so like this was the first time. So for them, the first time all the teachers to happen to come in, but it was like a big weekend, wasn't it? Wasn't it like right before the holidays?
Yes.
Like it was the last week. So like it made sense without it being. It was one of those things that makes sense, and then as an adult, you're like, wait a minute.
I mean, like, that's one of the things the Unusual Suspect brings up in his reviews of the movies, like how many times Harry discovers something in the series by overhearing somebody. And he eavesdrops a lot. Sure, you can say that's part of his characteristic, but it's just very convenient that he overhears so much. Like, earlier in this book, he overhears the first half of the story of, like, Sirius between the Weasleys arguing while they're in,
Well, here's the
oh, what's the name of the place?
Three.
No.
No, wait. The first part.
But outside Diagon Alley. What?
Cauldron.
The Leaky Cauldron. Like, he overhears the Weasleys arguing about, and Arthur insisting that he knows everything before going back to school. And I think he was... Do you think he was in the right there, or do you think Mrs. Weasley was right there?
That's a fine line, because they're both right in a certain way.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a mother and father fight for you. Like, and it's kind of cool that Harry gets to be, like, the kind of the byproduct, because he's obviously not going to get that with the Dursleys. Mm-hmm. But it's like, one parent's going to be more of, like, a nurturing, more, like, I want to protect them. Yeah. The other parent's like, bro, like, we got to let them live. Like, he's going to find out. I want him to find out the right stuff and not like he does hearsay, so he doesn't get the whole story from people who he would trust, and information given to him gets it from overhearing them while under a table.
Like years ago, like my sister's ex, like they went out, like, and like a few of her friends went out to a shooting range and stuff like that. My mom was apprehensive of me going to go to the shooting range and shoot guns and stuff like that, and my dad was like, well, in worst case scenario, if he needs to use it or something like that, at least he has some knowledge around it. That was his. It's like you're saying, like, don't want to do that, but like he could use that knowledge going further ahead. It's one of those situations played out. And it was something else that was really that. Do you think it's weird? Like we were saying, like, sorry, I'm playing with Dakota's hands now. This is getting even more into sensual legs, anklets, and tramp steps, and now holding hands.
Next is Jean Show. We already hit
Show tunes a while ago. Okay.
Oh God.
Now, we also brought up the fact that, like, the reason why Harry and Hermione have to be back in their exact spot is to prevent a paradox. However, there is a paradox in the climax of this book when Harry sees himself perform the Patronus.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have been able to if he'd never done it for the first time.
See, my whole reasoning with why he doesn't go crazy from that is because he's like, there's no way the ghost of my father could have done it. And I think he thinks it's a byproduct of the Dementors. Because he kept saying, he's like, it was my father, it's my father, it's my father. But, like, in the whirlwind of events that had happened that night, I think, like, had they not gone back in time traveling, which in turn he would not have been there, but say he was there still, he would have been able to be like, no, it was the way the Dementors were affecting me. Like, that's not what happened. Somebody casted the Patronus. But I think Harry works on the same kind of impulses that Sirius does, and it was, oh my God, not only am I going to die, Hermione's going to die, and Sirius, the only family that willingly wants to accept me, that's actually family, whereas, like, the Burrow, like, it's kind of different with the Weasleys because it's a friend's parents, but here's somebody who literally is kind of in his direct line, and so I think that act of desperation was able to give him a happy enough memory to produce it. But yeah, like, the only reason it was okay is because he had been hearing his dead parents It's almost. Oh, I hate to bring up Twilight, but in Twilight, I know you both gave me an eye roll, both of you, like simultaneously.
No, I just felt my nine just sold die a little bit more.
Okay, but basically, in Twilight, like, the only time she would hear Edward is if she was doing really super like adrenaline junkie stuff, and that's why I brought it up because it's kind of the same principle. Like Harry, like, was used to hearing his dead parents, like it was kind of expected, which is why Bella kept doing those things and got worse and worse. Whereas like Harry was just like, all right, like it was my dad because I wanted it to be my dad. It wasn't really my dad, and then it turns out it was just him.
I'm good. I don't have anything really else to say on that one.
About the paradox of seeing himself.
Well, that's where the whole time traveling thing gets really weird because that's always going to happen. It's always a discussion. Well, how many times in the past has this actually happened until the past self was like, oh shit, maybe I should go do this to help him. I mean, as stupid as it is, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they're going through the police station at the very end of the movie and they get a fax saying to duck. Yeah. How many times do they get caught in that scenario before they decide to travel back in time to send a fax at that exact moment? Yeah. It's like one of those things where it's like that you could just debate that forever and ever and you're never going to get an answer.
I mean, that's the same thing with the end of the first Back to the Future. How many times is Marty going to be standing up there overseeing the events of the opening of the movie play out and stuff like that? Will he eventually run into himself and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. But also, I just wish, like, weird winged demons ripped open a space-time continuum and started consuming people, like in that one episode of Doctor Who. Yes. Which, and it's totally, they ran out of money during that season for that episode. It's because, like, hey, we could all keep it in a church the entire time, and we won't have to show the creatures too much. It was totally like, we have a low-budget episode, so we're going to keep it all in one location there. But I think that's... The first time around, I didn't like that episode. Second time around, I really enjoyed that. But I can't watch that now because the Doctor Who is no longer on Netflix. It
isn't?
They took it off today.
Oh, dicks. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And now your favorite moments of Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. Dun, 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 dun.
Are you going first?
Unless there's another topic you want to talk about before we go any further.
No, it's okay. I had like my one freak out moment.
I'll go first. Really, my favorite moments of this book is, to be perfectly honest with you, the introduction of Lupin on that train. Huh. And the entire train ride up until the Dementors. I always enjoy that thing, especially when the lights go out, because it's just how audible, like all the audibles are, oh, hey, hello, Neville. Like, it's like, oh, they all are stumbling on top of each other. Don't sit here. I'm sitting here. And then it's like they're bickering, and then all of a sudden, quiet! And it's like, whew. And Lupin finally gets up, and he just lights. It's like, nobody move. I'm going to check out what's going on. And it's like, yes.
Oh, yeah, and Ginny got affected pretty bad by the
Ginny got affected very bad.
Obviously, because she got fucking possessed.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about her.
No, but just how they introduce Lupin and then just the dialogue on the train of Lupin, that set the tone of the character, and that's why, like, pretty much how I just love him so much. Opening for when they introduce Lupin on the train. The whole opening on the train.
Yeah. Shit. I guess
it's actually not a Quidditch one this time.
Yeah.
Woo!
It's really hard to pick. I kind of, all the other ones I had easier moments, but this one was a little hard. I think it has to be when they all get the payoff when Sirius writes like the note. It's like by the way, I bought the firebolt. So like Hermione's all like, haha, I'm right. Like she always needs that validation. And then Ron gets a new pet, and Harry gets his permission slip, and it's like the fact that now he has to go on the run and he can't live with him is out the window, but there's still like this hope that things will get better, and they don't get better, and it's so freaking sad. But yeah, like I just think when you tie in all that craziness that was that year and leading into what craziness is to come in the next year, my favorite book, is I just think that moment is the best.
My favorite moment could be the Shrieking Shack, like the 3 chapters that takes place in there. and the revelations that happen, how Sirius is just being very quiet and calm, and he, like, the most part of it, he does not take his eyes off Scabbers until they mention Snape, and that's when Sirius kind of breaks out of his trance and is like, what about him? He's like, oh, he's a professor. Professor here.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Rubbing off on you.
Oh, man. And then that's when he reveals himself to everybody. Of course, Harry, all three of them attacking him at once, and he ends up cracking his head against the wall from all the spells hitting him at once. And then the Peter and Pettigrew, where Lupin and Sirius are going to straight up murder his ass in front of everybody. And then there's one of my other favorite parts of the book is, like, obviously the celebration of winning the House Cup. And even, like, it's a weird scene, and I know I should hate it, but when Snape catches Harry and brings him to his office and then has the parchment, he's like, oh, it's an old piece of parchment? Surely you don't need this, Potter. I'll just throw this in the fire. And just seeing how he toys with Harry at that point.
Because he knows.
He totally knows. There's something bewitched about it.
I think he does know a little bit more to it. I think he just never knew how to work it. So he's hoping he can milk that and get that out of Harry.
Like when he's examining the statue that Harry uses, like, it's almost like he's like, this seems extremely familiar. Like, why do I remember the statue specifically?
Yeah, because you have to realize, I mean, he's been out of school for a really long time now. So, like, this would be familiar without it.
But he could also remember James, Sirius, and Lupin.
Seeing them there a lot.
Around that statue all the time, too. But yeah, no, I agree with you. That whole scene with the map, and then
that's not a weird scene. That's actually like a
really legitimate scene.
And I think it's me because of Jim Dale's performance is like, really, Potter picks up Lupin. Lupin!
I might have to listen to the audiobooks because I feel like because I only did the one. I've never done the rest of them. I don't have the patience though. Because I want to read at my pace and.
It's just I work at a really monotonous job, and I can just have my headphones in all day, so I just kind of like zone out listening to that while doing my bullshit work. So I'm just like, that's why I really enjoyed that. But I think I like that pace because I think I read at a slower pace, so I think like having them going at this pace, and so I don't have to process as much of actually reading it. It helps me.
Pace when it's like really intense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like. And then he turned.
I know it's not that bad. It's just I read really quickly, which I mean, if you can't pick up from my inability to pronounce any of the words in Harry Potter.
Is that linked with a quick reading in?
No, I think it's just more like one I was always really bad at pronouncing words. Like literally did Hooked on Phonics. And then like because I read so quickly, Harry Potter is the only thing I can actually retain. Like some things I read so quickly, and for like a week I'll remember like everything, and then like after it's like, wait, that happened in the book,
right?
So that's why I reread things quite a bit.
I mean, like I understand where you're coming from. Like I had like learning disability classes. Like once, like I had like oral surgery, and then I had to like relearn how to speak a little bit because of that. So I'm just like I understand where you're coming from, but least favorite moments in this book.
Okay, so least favorite moments. It's kind of hard because I do love a lot of stuff about this book, but my least favorite moments have to be the whole time travel part of it. I know that's an essential part of the story, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I've said it before, it's overly complicated. I mean, for kids, it's like, okay, that makes sense, but the fact that it's so overly complicated and it's really tricky, though I mean, I accept it as a huge part of the story, and that's a pivot point of the story. It's just that if I had to nitpick, that would be my least favorite part of the story.
Yeah, I get it. I think time travel is just a rough concept in general to play with, and I get that. I'm in the same boat. It's just as hard to pick a least favorite as it was to pick. Actually, it's a lot harder than to pick a best, and I had struggled with that because everything, even if I didn't enjoy the moment, like it made sense overall within the series. Like I don't think there was really anything in here that didn't get brought back up. in some way, shape, or form. I guess really just what has to bother me the most is that Peter gets away. And obviously we see a lot more of him. And then like the whole thing with Aunt Marge, like I said, I didn't think you can get worse than Vernon Dursley. And like the fact that he's kind of afraid of her. Like the fact that they never care what Dudley does. And then they're bribing him to behave in front of her. Like, it just speaks to how unbearable. Like I wonder if her and like Umbridge would like get together and have tea. Like two little like peas in a nasty pod.
That's ridiculous. Ugh, I
with
don't
their
think of that
bulldogs and kitty cats. You're welcome.
Probably my least favorite moment is like it seems rather like I brought up before that it always seems one of the three is at odds with the other person at one point in the upcoming books. That being probably the problem here. Like Ron has a good reason to be upset with Hermione. Hermione's seems to be very stubborn on the fact that like Crookshanks, like cats do that. Cats, yeah, but like also feels like Crookshanks could be ripping out Neville's throat, and I feel like Hermione would have been like, "But it's Crookshanks." Like Crookshanks just killed the kid, and you'd be like, "It's Crookshanks though." It almost seemed that kind of ridiculous, and it seemed very contrived at points to keep that conflict going. Other than that, probably my least favorite one, other than the time travel, is probably Professor Trelawney just being so prominent in this book.
Yeah, so prominent.
And one of my favorite moments of that book is during the Christmas dinner is when like, oh, is Professor Lupin out here? What's her first name?
Sybil.
So, Sybil, wouldn't you be able to see that?
Yeah.
And calls her out in front of everybody.
That back and forth between McGonagall and Trelawney.
Because you never see McGonagall lose her cool, but she does, well, not without damn good reason. So
Yeah.
for her to, like, lose that, like, kind of cool disposition in order to be, like, kind of sassy for no reason is so funny.
I also love in that scene how like when they're doing the crackers and the
The
hat with
vulture
the
hat.
vulture comes out
Yeah.
and Dumbledore tries to give it to Snape and he's like, no thank you. And then he pops it on his
Oh,
own head.
yeah, and I do like the whole justification of why Harry wasn't allowed to go against the Boggart, because, like, and Lupin's just like, oh, I thought it was obvious. I thought it'd be
Lord Voldemort.
And
It probably would have scared the shit out of everybody in the class at that point.
and-
Which I wonder which form of Voldemort would it have been.
Head coming out of the
oh, you know what? You know why it wouldn't have been Voldemort, even though Harry says it wasn't really Voldemort? The only version of Voldemort Harry has seen is the back of Quirrell's head and
Tom Riddle.
young. So why would he be...
It would have been confused.
The part that, like, the thing that would most scare him would be the Voldemort that killed his parents, but he doesn't remember what he looks like.
It would have just been a close figure. It would have been what
So
the Dementor looked
it almost
like.
would have been a Dementor either which way, which is fear itself. Oh my god, that's such a cool... Wow, Tim! Good job!
And I almost ended the podcast in half an hour.
Yeah.
And Lupin was so proud of Harry that it's like, you actually, like, it could have been the natural choice, but no, you actually fear something that's the definition of fear.
Yeah.
It's like, good for you, kid.
Yeah, that's right. You get on with your fear.
You own that bitch.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Sorry.
And stairs, but, you know, that's...
Oh my gosh.
You got that
It
joke.
took me a minute. I'm not gonna lie. That was delayed, but... Ooh. Okay.
Okay, just quickly on a Bogart, like, okay, my biggest fear,
Bogart or Bogart?
I pronounce it Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart?
No, because that's how Jim Dale says it.
But how do they say it in the movies?
Bogart.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jim Dale.
Boggart. Doesn't matter. Tomatoes, tomatoes. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so,
Movie semantics.
okay, so, like, here's another question for all of you. If you were presented with a Bogart, what would it pop out as?
Well, we know mine. It would just be a rattlesnake,
yeah,
like, which
snakes.
is, I mean, that was brought up in the movie. They do have, like, a snake.
I mean, my biggest thing is actually heights and falling. So I don't know how the hell that would be.
The floor would probably... It would just
It would just
transform, like...
illusion itself.
Yeah, like the ceiling of the Great Hall. You know how it literally looks like a starry night?
It'll just
and-
take the floor.
Yeah, it would just, like, kind of just illuminate the floor, and you'd feel like you're about to drop. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
Drowning. that's one that, like, or being attacked in water and not being able to do anything. Because I almost drowned once when I was a child, so I've always had quick story. Remember, like, at my grandparents' house, they always had a pool, and like, all right, like, we're all getting out for dinner and stuff like that. We all had a bunch of pool toys, including one big, like, crocodile you can ride and stuff like that. And I kept grabbing for it, and it was getting out of the shallow end. I kept grabbing for it, and I kind of slipped into the deep end.
Oh, no.
And I'm like 5 years old, and I'm just seeing blue and rippling above me. And the next thing is my father's hands just grab hold of my wrist and hoist me out of the water like in one fell swoop. And I'm just like, ever since then, fear of drowning. Yet I love to swim. That's the funny thing. And I do have problems with heights if I have no support, but I can go up the top of the Empire State Building.
No. I was on top of the Empire State Building. I tried to take a picture of, like, the point, and even just standing all the way up and leaning backwards, I was just nope. All right, so here's a follow-up question. What would your ridiculous spell be?
Oh.
You.
I don't know.
Me?
I think I might... I really don't know. I think I probably would panic. I think I would be one of those people that, like, would, like, break down like a Hermione after McGonagall, or even like Molly when she sees, like, the kids and just keeps going.
Oh God, that's terrible.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Because, like, I don't know if I could do it. Because I literally can't even watch snakes on, like, you guys watch me cringe. Like,
Yeah, you
and
can't
it's
even CGI snakes.
my whole, like, your story's, like, legit. Like, your fear makes sense. Like, I literally watched a snake being fed when I was, like, 4, and I had nightmares for, like, years of being the lump that was fed. And, like, that's it. Like, I was just, like, a little kid. Like, my dad was like, yo, let's bring her and show her a boa constrictor, because my dad's, like, super bright. And, and that's it. Like, and even later on in, like, now I'm thinking about it, my dad's really mean, because one time we're driving, and, like, there was, like, a rubber... How he saw this from a moving vehicle, to this day, I don't understand. But he saw a rubber snake on the ground and decided, let's pull the car over. So he pulls the car over, grabs this snake, and I'm sitting in the front seat, throws it at me. Hysterics. Like, literal hysterics. He gets the thing, and he's like, oh, shit, playing. Throws it out. I did not talk. I think it was like a 45-minute car ride. I did not talk the whole time. I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks. I was so upset. So, yes, I don't know if I could do a ridiculous spell. I think I might. If it turned in, I mean, there are other fears that I have that it could possibly turn into, but I think physically a snake would make the most sense for me, and I don't know what I would do. Like, maybe I pretend it was like a TV channel, I can change it, but, like, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if I could do it.
Turn it into a squeaky toy and just...
Like, maybe I would do, like, how I picture with, like, the basilisk, like, how I trick myself into watching it. Maybe it'll turn into, like, a dragon or something.
Turn into the dragon from Neverending Story.
Maybe. Like, maybe that would be how it... But even then, like, I don't think... Maybe in the situation like Lupin, where, like, I went into it knowing that there's a boggart coming out, knowing that a snake is going to come out, maybe I'd be able to do it. But more so, like, if I happened upon a boggart, like, I was like, why is this rattling? And I open it up and the big snake comes out. No way. You'd find me, like, dead. Heart attack.
Well, I was going to play a prank on you, throw a rubber snake at you at one point. Just to
Are
see
you serious?
In the back of my mind for during Chamber Secrets, just to fuck with you. If I was like, no.
Oh my God, I probably would have never done a podcast again.
Yeah, after you explained how vehemently you hated
Yeah.
it during the book review, I was like, all right, I'm going to shelve that idea.
That's like my biggest fear about telling people. My biggest fear is that they're going to use that again. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I have enemies. What if they put, like, a snake in my car?
What are you, a Game of Thrones character? You feel like somebody's going to assassinate you? Like, you
I
going to
think
be
I
like...
just watched too much Lifetime as a child, because, like, even somebody asked me, they were, like, drunk in Patchogue. I got off of work, and they're like, they come up to my window, and they're like, oh, can you drive us to our car? Our feet really hurt. And, like, I get it. Like, I've worn, like, stripper heels, too. I get they hurt at the end of the night. But I was just like, oh, sorry, I'm running late, bye. And I was like, so this bitch could stab me with her stiletto? Hell fucking no. I'm, like, driving away. So I don't think normal people's brains work like mine, but that's literally my biggest fear, is that people are going to throw a snake
Who's
at me.
that Egyptian princess that died with
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra? You feel like that's how you're going to go out or something like that?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know, Tim, and I will haunt whoever. If I die of a snake bite, I can guarantee, I don't care if there is no afterlife, I will find a goddamn way to get you back. So keep that in mind, listeners.
I don't know what that would turn into. Like with Bob, it may just turn into Justin Bieber because I would just laugh my balls off laughing at him.
Well, I feel like because if yours is drowning, it'd probably be water. So like if you literally like a
it maybe just
bathtub, like when you pull the plug in the bathtub and it all goes down the drain.
Yeah, but like
See, I can help you guys with your fears.
Yeah.
I was thinking of you turn yours into a squeaky toy.
Yeah, I don't know, because I can't even handle a rubber snake. You think a squeaky rubber snake is gonna make it?
That'd be kind of funny though.
Or it opens its mouth and it's like one of those blow toys where it's like.
Why are you haunting my nightmare? That's like the clown of rubber snakes. In the Great Movie Ride in Disney, I have to duck for the snake part, and everybody always thinks it's like the Indiana Jones part, and everybody always thinks something scary is happening, but I'm literally just having a breakdown, and it's my favorite ride. The Jungle Cruise, I turn away for the big animated robotic snake.
So I guess we're never gonna do a commentary to Anaconda now, are we?
No, one time somebody left Anaconda on the TV, and it was awful, and I bet it was my dad because he's evil.
We could just make fun of John Boyd's hamminess in that movie because it's hilarious at J-Lo's lack of acting.
Yeah, well, I'll never know.
What about sex on a plane?
Did you? I'm sorry. The way you said snakes on a plane, it definitely sounded like sex on a plane, and I was like, Dakota, that's.
Even for our tangents for our conversation, that has no correlation whatsoever. The Mahal Club has nothing to do with Harry Potter, unless they did it on a broomstick. Would be kind of interesting to see if somebody balanced their way out of the way.
Somebody's done it. I mean,
I want to like how
fucking Aberforth had sex with a goat, so like, there's definitely somebody had sex with him.
Definitely did it. Romantic after.
Somebody was flu powdering around. Okay, so.
Romantic night in front of the phone booth.
Probably my least favorite. Yeah, other than Professor Jabroni. Jabroni. That's what it sounded like. Professor Jabroni up in the tower.
I don't know if it's our like talking or if it's our hearing that's worse, because I literally think that's been like a thing all day.
Yeah, but also like my headphones are like noise cancellation ones, so I'm just kind of like I'm like I feel kind of deaf talking right now.
Cry.
Yeah, so I hope everybody's enjoyed this podcast review of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. If you want people to follow you on social media, where can I follow you, Nikki?
On Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all that good stuff as Nikki Muggle or Nikki Muggle 1.
And you, Dakota?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Dakota.Wiegand, more likely, for both of those. And you can find my reviews of cartoon shows, good and bad, at dwdrawings.deviantart.com.
And if you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me over on the Twitter at TimothyRooney1012. Doing my radio voice. And if you want to follow me over on Instagram, TRooney1012. And you can follow my YouTube page and Facebook page at Through the Lens Productions. Now that you've had that reaction, I'm going to sign off in my radio voice. Hope everyone's enjoyed this episode of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Don't touch my microphone. Oh, bullshit.
Oh, my God.
Hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.